Yeah, you weren't expecting me, were you? Yeah, that's right kids, we're finally talking about Pizza Tower today. This game has been on my mind for like the past 6 months and it isn't really that hard to see why. Everyone has been talking about this game, like your mum, dad, sister, brother, and hell, even my dead grandma's been talking about this game, it's just that good. Just in case you couldn't tell, it's inspired by that of Wario Land 4. Easily one of the best games you could ever own on the Game Boy Advance. Yeah, the Game Boy Advance. Remember when Nintendo used to make handhelds? Nowadays you have your Switches and your Androids and more Switches. But yeah, Wario Land 4 is easily one of the best games in that franchise, but I feel that the Wario Land series, like a lot of other video games out there, just kinda get lost in the sands of time. So many people have probably never even played these games before, but because of the insane popularity of Pizza Tower, I could definitely see some people going back to those games, just to see what the whole fuss about Pizza Tower was about. And in typical me fashion, I am 6 months late to the party. Pretty much everyone on this platform has at least talked about the game, but here I am about to make a very long video about a game that only takes like a couple minutes to get to grips with, so this is gonna be fun. And just a quick reminder, make sure you subscribe if you are new to this channel and you like my content, which is just a straight lie, but oh well. You can also follow me on Twitter. I really need to get off this platform, but just follow me anyway because I like big numbers. And so, with that all out of the way, y'all ready to get funky. So there is, in fact, a story to Pizza Tower, so let me spill the beans. There's no beans in here. This is Peppino Spaghetti. That is the most Italian name I've ever heard in my entire life. That's like calling a French person
no way.
baguettes. And he owns the restaurant called Peppino Pizza. Then he is visited by the evil Pizzaface. And yep, the main antagonist of this entire game is a giant floating pizza with pepperoni eyes and a mushroom nose. Yeah, this villain kinda sucks. Well, at least he isn't.
The evil Mr. Dark.
You know, him. And he decides to threaten Peppino by destroying his restaurant with a big old laser. So Peppino decides to chase after him to stop him. Pretty simple. And then Peppino also ropes in his business partner Gustavo and the tax collector Mr. Stick. And off you go on the journey to the top of the tower to save your restaurant and at least earn a little bit more money than you probably normally do because this guy's in crippling debt. So, how about Peppino, eh? Well, he's very Wario coded. I mean, he did in fact name his restaurant after himself, so if that isn't proof, I don't know what is. Like I said, pretty much has all the characteristics that Wario typically has. Like for instance, his exaggerated design, or his fat stack of cash, and his inflated ego. Peppino has some of those things, but some are different to make him stand out a little more, such as the fact that he's in debt, unlike being filthy stinking rich. And also, probably the main reason he actually ended up on the Sexy Man wiki, yeah, that's real, look it up, is the fact that he's treated as a pathetic joke. Oh, and he also has anxiety problems too, so that's probably relatable to like every single person who watches my content, including myself. I actually wanted to point something out that I don't think that many people actually pointed out themselves, and it's the fact that Peppino's entire sprite, at least to me anyway, is based on Wario's sprite from Wario Land 3. I don't know if this is exactly true or anything, I just think the colors look very similar to each other. Hey, if it ends up being completely true, that'll put me in a slightly better mood than I was 10 seconds ago. I honestly won't bother too much with the tutorial, it does its job well. However, there are things that the tutorial won't mention, so I'll bring those up when they become relevant. Now, after beating the tutorial, the game now lets us off the leash, and we are finally able to tackle what, in my opinion, makes Pizza Tower one of the best 2D platformers ever. This game consists of a maximum of 20 levels, spaced out between 5 floors and 4 levels for each floor. And yes, I know the asterisk is there, trust me, we will come back to that later. So World 1 starts off with John Gutter, and the best way to describe this level, at least in my opinion, is basically Pizza Tower's version of Green Hill Zone, you know, from the Funny Blue Hedgehog game. And why Green Hill Zone exactly? Well, you're basically running around on a checkerboard tile set throughout the entire level, so it's Green Hill if I've ever seen it. And like Green Hill Zone, I would also describe this level as being more of like the tutorial stage, I guess, letting the player mess around with Peppino's moveset to get a better understanding of it and how it works. So yeah, use this opportunity to learn Peppino's moveset and just get to grips with it, really. They will throw a small amount of curveballs just to kind of show you what to expect from the game, like the metal blocks and ground pounding, and something new. Yes, they introduced something new in this level pretty quickly here, that being the taunt. Now, the taunt is a neat little thing that Peppino has. It does seem like it's just made for fun, and yeah, you're right, it really was just made for fun. Pressing the Y button on the Xbox controller, and I think it's probably the triangle on PlayStation, I assume, Peppino will do a little taunt. This can come in a variety of poses. Some of them are just like basic poses. Some of them are just straight references, like this one, which is just a reference to that one Daffy Duck pose. Or this one, which is a reference to Dr. Robotnik. No, not that one. That one.
Snooping as usual, I see.
But also, the taunt actually has two practical uses, the first being a super taunt. It's basically just a screen nuke. Killing 10 enemies in a row, Peppino will get a little aura around him, and if you hold up and then Y on the controller, then Peppino will do a super taunt. Like I said earlier, a screen nuke, killing every enemy currently on the screen. There is a second practical use for the taunt, but for now, we'll save it for later. You've probably also noticed these little cages. Touching these cages will give you a top-in. The top-ins are essentially the main collectible of this game and are required for main game completion, so I would recommend going after all of these. 5 in each level, and honestly, finding these guys is not too hard. They're pretty much placed on the main path. Sometimes they will be placed in areas that you could just easily gloss over, but they're really not that hard to find. And of course, they're all based on actual pizza toppings. They come in the order of a mushroom, a block of cheese, a tomato, a sausage, and a pineapple. Good to know that Pizza Tower's officially ended that debate. You've probably also noticed the enemies running around. I know most people probably don't mention these because they're just kind of unimportant, but I like the enemy roster, it's just kind of goofy. Not gonna mention all the enemies, of course, I'll just mention the ones that I like. Just gonna quickly focus on this guy here, this little monkey dude. He basically throws a couple banana peels down, and if Peppino touches them, he slips. But you probably also noticed that hat on his head. Yeah, because turns out, as far as I'm concerned, it seems to be a reference to Joel Vine Sauce. So after plowing through all those enemies, you probably meet up with this guy. This is John Pillar. He's basically the frog timer of Pizza Tower, so you need to destroy him in order to progress. This will activate the It's Pizza Time segment of the game, where you now need to go from this part of the level all the way back to the beginning. So, just like Wario Land 4. And in this level, it will show you that some new pathways will open up and block off other ones, making for a much more faster escape. And that's almost all of John Gutter, because I want to talk about the level theming. Yes, I think in Wario Land specifically, level theming was just so weird, but in a good way, I guess. And this game definitely does encapsulate that. With this level, well, it's very weird, I'll say that much, but honestly, in terms of lore implications, it's probably one of the darker levels of this game. And yes, you heard me right, this game does in fact have some lore to it. I won't talk about it now, but here's what you get in terms of level theming. You have this room with a bunch of rectangles with faces, a purple island, and kind of reminds me of that one level from Kirby's Adventure, I think it's called Orange Ocean. It's like that, but all purple now. And then you have a purple city. And how about that music, huh? It's no surprise that Pizza Tower has been praised for its soundtrack. deservingly so. The three composers we have are Mr. Sauceman, Classy Jitto, and Post Elvis. You've been hearing some of their music already throughout this video, the song that is currently playing being Unearthly Blues, made by Mr. Sauceman. It's a very beginner-friendly track, I would say. It's not too intense, but it isn't too relaxed either. Here, take a listen. Then you have the track of Pizza Tower, I'd say, that being It's Pizza Time. This track comes on whenever you destroy John Pillar in a level, and yeah, it's not that hard to see why this track is probably the most popular one in Pizza Tower, at least as far as I'm concerned. Personally, I prefer the level tracks more, but this one's still really good anyway. It definitely feels like a evolution of that hurry up theme from Wario Land 4, basically making it feel like an anxiety trip. Also, fun fact about this track, in this specific part of the song, actually, in the original demos of Pizza Tower, this track used to have the Wario Land 4 rip from, I think, Paradise Palms, I think it's called. Obviously, it was removed for, Nintendo reasons, but I just still think it's kind of neat that that was even in the game in the first place. It was obviously replaced with their own version, so I'm glad that the spirit never truly died there. Other than that though, that's really all I have to say about John Gutter. I think it was a really solid level, definitely a good opener level, so I'm gonna rank it as an A tier. And yes, I am ranking all of these levels in a tier list because I am out of money. So after beating John Gutter, you probably enter the next room only to be jump scared by an Italian man. This is Gustavo, I mentioned him earlier, but he's being chased around by a big rat, and this also gives me the opportunity to talk about the hub worlds. Yeah, each world has a hub world. They don't really seem that interesting right now, but there is stuff that you can find in these that are actually quite interesting. I'll talk about that later, but for now, let's actually start by talking about the second level. Pizzascape, the second level, and this one was actually one of the levels in the original demo, the Sage 2019 demo. Actually, all the levels in this world are from the Sage demo, except John Gutter before it. This level has a castle theme. Not exactly too interesting, but at least it's kinda cool. You start out on like the outside area of the castle and you make your way inside, going to the throne room and where John Pillar is, that being the treasury. At least I assume it's the treasury because it's kinda like plated all in gold. Yeah, it's the treasury. This level, however, is actually unique because it introduces the power-ups for Pizza Tower. Power-ups in Wario Land kinda work a bit differently compared to Mario. In Wario Land, they kind of have a bit of a downside to them. Like, for instance, a Wario Land puzzle will have you needing to use Fire Wario in order to break open a fire block. So instead of, being like Mario and getting fireball projectiles, instead, Wario gets set on fire, you lose control briefly, and then he engulfs in flames and he can now destroy the block. So what the designers like to do is they like to build an entire platforming sequence around you using the ability, which can lead to some fun level design. Pizza Tower, on the other hand, is much different. Since it's a lot more focused on speed and puzzle solving in this game is pretty much non-existent, you don't really do that. Instead, all the abilities are based around just movement, or well, just moving forward in this case. So, in a sense, the Knight, which is the ability you get here, can double jump. He's impervious to all types of damage, however he moves pretty slow. The way you gain speed with this guy and keep the pace flowing is by sliding. If you touch a slope, and I mean like literally you just poke that thing and you're gone, you basically just move in one direction. You lose control of Peppino, you can still jump however, so obviously the level designers put in these kinds of like little challenges where you need to avoid obstacles and keep the momentum flowing. And the way you progress is by destroying these stupid rats. Yeah, these stupid rats. They kind of block the way and are an indicator if there is in fact an ability to use in this level. And apparently these rats are way taller than Peppino, so I would assume that they probably tried to take over New York City at some point. And to get rid of these abilities, you have to find these priests, which will get rid of them for you for a little point bonus. So yeah, it's pretty cute. Alright, finally time to talk about the music then. This one's interesting because there's actually two variations for Pizzascape. There's the first being hot spaghetti and the second being cold spaghetti. The first one you'll hear when you enter the level and, you know, are outside the castle. Then you hear the second one when you're properly inside of the castle. Hot spaghetti actually uses quite a lot of samples from Earthworm Jim. It also wants to feel a lot more spooky, so it samples like lots of thunder, and I think that's howling wolves somewhere in that track. But honestly, my favorite part of the track is this. Just listen. Moving on to cold spaghetti now. This one is a lot more funky instead of the more like, I guess, more Castlevania theme of hot spaghetti. And I'm not even joking about this. Cold spaghetti just sounds like it was ripped right out of Wario Land. Literally just listen to it. I have actually seen a video online of someone using Wario samples in cold spaghetti, and it just fits so well. It sounds like it was ripped right out of Wario Land. Like, that's so cool. Okay, enough gushing about the music for right now, but where would I rank this level? I think this is easily one of my favorite levels, at least in World 1 anyway. Yeah, theming isn't exactly original for any game ever, but you know what, it's really good. I'm gonna put it in the A tier. Pizzascape goes in the A tier, there you go. The next level we have here is Ancient Cheese, a ruin theme level. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, this is probably my least favorite level in the game. Yeah, sorry to all the 3 Ancient Cheese fans out there. This one just didn't really click with me. That's not to say it's a bad level or anything. I actually think it's really good. I think when compared to the other levels of this game, this one just didn't really do it for me. Anyway, so what's unique about this level? Well, it introduces a couple interesting things, such as the cheese block. These blocks, basically, like any platformer ever, you touch these blocks and then they disappear after a short time. That's really about it. There is this one unique set piece in the level where you just run as fast as you can, and this trail of cheese blocks are just like dissolving right behind you. It's nothing special, but I think it was a cool set piece and worth a mention. Also, this is the level where they introduced the bomb ability. This is one of those abilities that isn't exclusive to a single level, like the Knight was in Pizzascape. This one could be found in a couple levels, this one obviously being one of them. Basically, you pick up the bomb and you throw it, and hopefully you hit the big stupid rat, because that's how you kill them in this level. They can actually be dropped by 2 means. First is these little pizza goblins. They're just goblins that wear pizza boxes are, it's kind of funny. They throw bombs at you, so you can pick them up and throw them back at them, but you have to wait for it to explode. Or you could pick it up from a conveniently placed bomb dispenser. There's also these blocks that can only be destroyed from one side, so that's kind of cool. So how about the music? The first track is Theatrical Shenanigans. This track just didn't really click with me. I still think it's a good track, don't get me wrong, but I'm not exactly gonna be listening to this on repeat. At least the saxophones in the song are good. This is also another level that has two versions of the track. From now on, I'm just going to refer to this as the A and B tracks. It's just a lot easier for me. But anyway, the second version of this track, called Put On A Show, is a much more upbeat version of the previous track, but now instead of a saxophone, it has what I would assume is a kazoo. Makes it sound a lot more ugly, but in a good way. Overall though, like I said, this level is my least favorite. Not a terrible level, like this level is still good. It's just not a level I'm probably going to be revisiting if I ever decide to, just play through some levels for the fun of it. So for now, Ancient Cheese can comfortably sit in the B tier. So, the last level in this world is Bloodsauce Dungeon, and obviously, a dungeon-themed level. This level, by the way, is a vertical level. Actually, I think out of all the levels in this game, it is the only vertical-based level in the entire game, which is pretty cool. It has some pretty interesting gimmicks, such as the spinning pizza cutters, kind of like the fire bars from Mario. Actually, it's kind of funny how this one feels a lot like Bowser's Castle, in terms of theming anyway, especially when you realize it's straight up the 4th level of the game, so it really does feel like you're in Bowser's Castle. I mean, hell, they even have like puddles of lava that if you touch him, he gets his ass set on fire and he shoots up high in the sky. This is really only useful for like, I don't know, during the escape sequence when you want to just go as high as possible, so it's really all you use it for. Or it's just a puddle of hot sauce, which would be honestly even funnier. This level also has one part where it turns to a complete silhouette, very similar to Donkey Kong Country Returns in those levels. Yeah, now that I actually think about it, I think the new Mario game that's coming out later this year also is doing something like that, which is just pretty nice considering Mario hasn't done anything original for like over 10 years at this point. Good to see that he's finally doing something, at least in 2D platforming. Oh my god, the music of this level is absolutely godlike. I think this is probably my favorite track, at least of the World 1 levels anyway. It starts out pretty standard as you would expect, it's, kind of building up. This one actually builds up a little slower, but damn, like almost a minute in, when that, I don't know, other layer of the track hits, it hits really, really hard. Yeah, this level easily goes in the A tier. You probably wonder why not the S tier. Honestly, I think some of the later levels in this game just somehow, some way knock these levels out of the park for me, which is pretty big considering on how good these levels are to begin with. Oh boy, I can't wait for the next batch. I am slightly afraid about what Pizza Tower is about to do to my perception of video games. And yes, to absolutely no one's surprise, turns out the quirky little 2D platformer has boss fights, and well, are these the most challenging boss fights of all time? No. Honestly, I'd argue that the boss fights are the weakest aspect of Pizza Tower, at least in my opinion. Definitely not bad per se, just especially when compared to the levels. Yeah, the levels shine way greater than the bosses do. I guess when you compare it to Wario Land 4, the bosses are a major improvement from that game, I guess, but we live in a world where Dark Souls and Cuphead kinda did that thing already, so better late than never. So the toppings that we got in the previous levels are used to unlock the boss gate, and each topping gives you about like $10, and Mr. Stick requires a good chunk of that money in order to access the boss. So he is quite literally this game's version of Moneybags from Spyro the Dragon. Except in this game, you can't beat the ever-loving shit out of him. I hate capitalism. Alright, so let's take on our first boss here. The first boss of this game is Pepperman, and he, based on this arena design, is an egocentric artist. He'd be perfect for Twitter. So yeah, he's a basic first boss, so he isn't exactly too hard, but he isn't exactly a total pushover. He has about 10 hit points, and you need to obviously get him down to 0. I mean, that's kind of how it works. So he does a plethora of attacks that you need to react to, wait for the right opportunity to strike, and then boom. That's pretty much it. His first attack involves him shoulder bashing, just in case you didn't know that this game is clearly inspired by Wario Land. He does a Wario Land shoulder tackle. He does that twice, and then his second attack is doing the shoulder tackle, but he turns around and does a quicker one, and then hits the wall, and then you can hit him back. Then he'll do a ground pound twice, and then he'll do the ground pound again, but this time he jumps up in the air and you have to hit him airborne twice. And then his final attack will send a block of marble down, and you need to carve a sculpture of Pepperman. He gets distracted and you can hit him. Also, as the fight progresses, some extra things happen, like this weird paint cutout of Pepperman. Honestly, this kind of reminds me of those weird paintings from the Castle Crashers Painter boss fight. They kind of look like that to me. And then also you have like these mini statues of Pepperman that fall from the sky, and you need to avoid them. Then after you finally deliver the final blow, the game quickly throws a curveball at you, and now there's a second phase to the entire fight. Well, it's mainly just a harder version of the first phase, and nothing really changes aside from he moves a lot quicker. Oh, and the marble block actually takes 6 hits now instead of 3. About it though. And when he's finally down to his last hit point, he shrinks and you need to hit him pretty quickly, or else he'll kind of return to normal size and do another quick attack. And speaking of that quick attack, you might find yourself in a little bad situation where you're kind of cornered, and no matter what you do, you're gonna get hit. This is where the second use of the taunt comes in, because it actually not only doubles as a screen nuke, but also a parry. Yes, this game has a parry system in it. It's a little bit of a learning curve, I will admit, but if you can get past that learning curve, this thing is stupid good, especially in boss fights. I've already seen videos of people just beating an entire boss fight while just parrying the entire thing, like not even jumping, which I think that just goes to show how stupid good it genuinely is. But it does have a learning curve, so it's like, it's not going to be abused by everyone. I mean, look at Sonic Frontiers parry. That thing just makes Sonic float in the air. So how about that music? Pepperman Strikes is the theme of this track, and no surprises with this one. This theme goes in so hard. So, after defeating the Pepperman, you get the key and are finally able to progress to the next floor. Alright, here we are. Welcome to floor 2, the Western District. Now, before we talk about the levels, let's get a good check-in to see what Gustavo's up to. Oh, looks like that he's having a bit of a brawl out with the rat from earlier, so just kinda leave him do it then. And also, you can find Pepperman here, who has taken the liberty upon himself to draw Peppino as what I would assume is his version of the Virgin Soyjack, and himself as the Chad Soyjack. I said he was perfect for Twitter, didn't I? But that's all I'll say for now. Let's tackle these next batch of levels. So World 2 starts us off with Oregano Desert, and yep, it is a desert level. Now desert levels in platformers have a tendency to be fairly boring, or at least uninteresting. Usually they end up being good whenever you go into a pyramid, and well, no surprises with this one. Oregano Desert is an absolute banger, and I'm about to tell you why. First of all, the background is a bunch of giant pizzas. You know, what you normally find in the middle of the desert. You'll also run into these enemies that are these little tribal guys, and they're doing a little rain dance, which obviously summon in these rain clouds, which shoot lightning every couple seconds. And, well, why not? You can also do the rain dance yourself. It's completely unethical, but hey, it's there if you want to do it. Also, all of the top-ends in this level, instead of just being placed on the normal path of the level, they're all placed in these grocery stores. Grocery stores in the middle of the desert. You go into these mines and there's these TNT blocks, and then you come out of the mines and then you find these weirdly hyper-realistic drawn cows that kick you backward when you touch them, and then you find out that those weirdly hyper-realistic drawn cows actually have a spaceship that you go into, and that's where you find John Pillar, and then you come out of the spaceship after destroying John Pillar and you see it fly away, which is kind of fun. So yeah, in terms of theming, Oregano Desert is honestly probably one of the most unique themes I've ever seen for a desert level in any platformer. Like literally, tell me right now, name me a platformer that has you go into a spaceship in a desert level that's owned by cows. Yeah, exactly, you can't name any that isn't Pizza Tower because it's the only one that's done it. Hell yeah. And speaking of, this level now introduces yet another ability. That, of course, being the spicy chicken Peppino. Basically, Peppino eats a very spicy chicken from this guy who's called Kentucky Kenny. Yeah, he basically just finds the chicken way too spicy, so he just starts shooting fire from his mouth. Basically, now Peppino moves a lot slower, but he has a very floaty jump, and he also has an air dash. And also, you can actually get a lot of ground speed if you air dash while near the floor. So this is another level that has two tracks to its name, the first of which being Oregano Mirage. And holy shit, I swear down that this track was ripped out of a fucking Sonic game, dude, because it goes in. Like, really, it goes in. I feel like that you could easily just replace this track with Mirage Saloon from Sonic Mania and you wouldn't tell a difference between the two of them. The second one is the one where you go in the spaceship. Honestly, not a big fan of this one. It's not that I hate it, it's just one that you don't listen to that often. Kinda sucks, because if I would have listened to it a lot more, I would have really liked it, but it's just kind of unfortunate that you barely hear it. But overall, this level has been absolutely fantastic. It is no doubts about this one. This one's just an instant S tier. Such a great opener for the world. So the second level we have here is Wasteyard. So obviously this is a level with the theme around a graveyard setting. So you're basically running across a bunch of bones and graves. And during the pizza time segment, you actually enter an abandoned shack, and there's a bunch of what I would presume to be zombies coming out. This level, by the way, wastes absolutely no time getting us introduced to the gimmicks it has to offer, because we literally start things off by surfing on a rotting corpse, disturbing the peace in style. And not too long after that, we also get introduced to yet another new ability, that of course being Ghost Peppino. Now, Ghost Peppino actually has a strong resemblance to that of Vampire Wario from the Wario Land series. And like Vampire Wario, it basically just gives Peppino full flight. So you can fly around with the ghost. Pretty simple, right? However, you are pretty slow unless you grab these ghost peppers. If Peppino grabs 3 of these ghost peppers, he'll move much quicker. And he can also break these cloud blocks, which are basically just the metal blocks from earlier, but are for Ghost Peppino now. You can also phase through cheese graters. The fact that it's specifically cheese graters is absolutely hilarious to me. I also really like that the way you get the ghost ability is by touching this mushroom ghost guy, and when Peppino touches it, not only does he soil himself, but he also dies at the same time. And even better is when you actually get rid of the ghost ability. Turns out the whole thing was just a bed sheet, which like I said is absolutely hilarious. There's actually a new gimmick involving John Pillar now. After you destroy him and activate Pizza Time, once you leave that first room, you'll now be introduced to John Ghost.
Okay, so the first night is never usually that bad in any of the games, so I'll play through.
I'm a ghost now. Woo!
Yeah, basically he just follows you around and will try to touch you, and if he does touch you, you just get sent back to the beginning of a room, so he's not really much of a threat, as long as you're constantly moving anyway. Alright, so here's a quick Pizza Tower hot take. I genuinely think that Wasteyard's track is actually probably one of the more underrated ones in the game. I wouldn't say it's the most underrated, I just think it's an underrated track that I think needs a lot more appreciation. The track itself goes for a lot more of a, take a wild guess, a gothic theme. I know, crazy. Also, want to know another fun fact? The name of the track, which you just saw earlier, being called Tombstone, Arizona, is indeed a real place in Arizona. Because, like, where else would it be? And this town in particular is known for having old-timey Western gunfights. And I hope for those who are possibly relatives of those old-time Western guys that I have paid homage to your family heritage by literally surfing on their rotting corpse. All jokes aside, however, I thought that this level was kinda underrated. I'm probably like one of the 3 people that actually like Wasteyard, so I'm gonna be one of those nice 3 people and give you a A rank. So the next level here is Fun Farm, and take a wild guess on what this level's theme is all about. Yeah, that's right, grass.
Grass?
Pretty basic farm theme, nothing really that interesting. You go from the farmland and into the barn. That's about it. The enemies obviously fit the theme very well. I like them. You have this potato farmer who's wielding a pitchfork, a eggplant who's wielding some sickles, and this tomato guy who's wielding a torch that occasionally throws it up every now and then. So what makes this level incredibly unique is, well, its transformation. Now I know that so far we've already had 2 levels that have transformations, but it's not so much about the transformation itself, it's the fact that it's actually a special guest character joining as a transformation. All you have to do is just approach this well over here and you'll find... Look who it is! It's him! Look! Look who it is! It's him! Look! It's him! It's him! Look! It's Mort the Chicken from the hit PlayStation 1 classic, Mort the Chicken! Yeah, that's right. Mort the Chicken has decided to join Pizza Tower. Well, if you're wondering on how much this cost, I'll just say that they probably spent their entire budget trying to get him in the game. So basically, Peppino moves a little slower, he has access to a double jump, and if you press the X button, Mort will do a little slap, which is kind of funny. You can also slap these hooks, get a little bit of extra air, and are basically like little grapple points, and they make this cool sound every time you slap them, which is kind of cool. Other than Mort though, that is really all this level has to offer in terms of content. Oh wait, never mind, you also have these weird ladders that fly upwards when you grab onto them, even though Peppino already has a super jump making these ladders kind of redundant. The music of this level is probably the weirdest I've experienced so far, mainly because it's just complete tonal whiplash. The first track here, being called Mort's Farm, is probably one of the most relaxing tracks in the entire game. Like, this kind of track you would expect to hear at the beginning, but we're literally a quarter of the way through this game already. The second track you'll hear is once you enter the barn, and this one's just a much more upbeat track, and that's really all I have to say about it. It's just upbeat and I like it. Overall, I think this is probably the weakest level of World 2. It's pretty good all things considered, but I just think the other levels I've played so far just hit a lot harder, so this one can go comfortably in the B tier. Finally, ending off World 2, we have Fast Food Saloon, and yep, this is a saloon theme level. Not surprising, considering I did just mention Mirage Saloon earlier, so it all just comes full circle, doesn't it? So typical saloon shenanigans ensue. You have a bunch of booze bottles that you can kick around. You also have these big booze bottles that shoot Peppino either up or down. I don't even know how they managed to even get on the ceiling, I'm just going to assume it was glue. This is also another level where the toppings are just used in a unique way as opposed to just being put on the main path. This time, unlike Oregano Desert, you have to unlock them by beating this rocking horse in a race where it moves incredibly slowly, and whenever it's off screen it has this really annoyingly smug face, so it's all the better when you defeat it in that said race. And if you lose said race, the topping is actually locked out, so you can't actually get it anymore. So if you ever lose this race, you should definitely feel incredibly embarrassed about that. You also have these playing cards that you can find, and if you get a certain number of them, you can actually get a couple points off of them. They usually come either in Pizzaface or a rat. And speaking of rats, if you actually pay attention to one of the backgrounds here, you can actually see Gustavo and the rat he was fighting earlier just kind of having a bit of a drink. I guess they either just decided to take a break or the fight just ended, so they just decided to get a drink of beer together. And actually, during the pizza time segment, Gustavo will actually be drunk when he's showing Peppino the way back to the entrance of the level, which pretty nice attention to detail. I really like that. And in typical World 2 tradition, we have yet another transformation. Yep, this entire world has basically been back to back to back transformations. So what's this one all about? Well, you ride a weenie sausage as a horse. So if you think about it hard enough, it looks like the Peppino is riding this dick. You basically just run through a bunch of stupid rats, and you can actually jump off of the sausage and it actually carries your momentum. Then you also have these weird buttons with faces on them, and after you click them, you need to run past this wall of whatever that is and get the special thing that it's probably locking. The music of this level I think is absolutely stellar. Probably my favorite track so far of World 2. The whistle instrument that it uses for this track just sounds godlike. Fun fact about this track, the vocals in this track are actually sampled from Jet Set Radio, and if your music samples Jet Set Radio, then it's an instant win regardless.
What's going on? What's going on? What? I don't understand what's going on here.
So yeah, overall, fast food saloon, fat W. This one, instant S tier, no questions asked. Alright, now it's finally time to talk about the second boss fight, that being the Vigilante. Now, in terms of character, I actually really like this guy. I mean, yeah, his name is kind of a dead giveaway about what he's all about, but who doesn't love a good Vigilante? So he's an instant win in my book. Now, in terms of the actual boss fight itself, yeah, it's probably the weakest fight in the game, mainly because there is a strat that you can use, which basically barely lets the Vigilante ever get an attack out. Basically, the best way to describe this fight is Meta Knight, but he has a gun, and actually just like Meta Knight, he does give you a gun before the fight even begins, and if you don't pick it up, by the way, he just kind of stares at you disappointingly. Kinda wish that there was a secret phase where he just starts the fight after you leave the gun on the ground for a couple seconds, kinda like in Star Allies where you just kinda don't pick up the sword or you decide to jump on Meta Knight's ledge. That would have been super cool, but oh well. So he has his basic attacks like shooting his gun, throwing dynamite, spraying and praying with an Uzi. He has a bazooka, he can slide tackle you with his cowboy boots, he has a flamethrower, and then he also calls in one of those hyper-realistic drawn cows from Oregano Desert and kind of bounces around the arena a little bit. There's also some of these decoys that shot from the ceiling and block some of your shots. As far as I can tell, it is mainly RNG based, so you hopefully shouldn't have too much issue when it comes to these, but just spam them with a gun if they ever do show up. He even decides to enlist the help of his deceased grandfather, called John E. Cheese. It's a play on Chuck E. Cheese, but instead of Chucky, his name is Johnny. That's pretty funny. I also like that in the second phase, the whole thing becomes a sunset backdrop, and yeah, it kinda goes hard, I'm not gonna lie. And well, how could I forget, because Peppino also gets a gun to fend for himself, like I mentioned earlier. Obviously a 6-shooter, you have 2 firing modes. You have a basic firing mode that shoots these little bullets, and then you have the big shot mode, which just shoots a giant bullet that takes a couple seconds to charge up. So this is where the cheese strat comes in, because in order to do this, it does take a little bit of timing. So first of all, it takes roughly about 8 shots to knock 1 hit point from the Vigilante. Now a big shot actually takes out 6 of those points of damage you need to inflict. So really, all you need to do is 1 big shot, then quickly follow it up with 2 little ones. So when does the timing come in? Well, after losing 1 hit point, the Vigilante will bounce from the right side of the arena to the left and then return to the right to start the next attack. So what you want to do is you want to time it so that the big shot will land as his iframes just barely go away. And well, if you're confident enough, hit him with 2 small shots and he barely even gets to activate his attack that he's trying to let out. Now there is one attack where this isn't possible, which is the one where he jumps up in the air and shoots a bazooka, but that's the only time he ever does it. Second phase, I don't think he ever uses it, which actually makes the second phase much easier. I do like that the boss fight actually ends with a quick draw match as well. It's actually very similar to that one minigame from Kirby's Adventure, which is just basically Samurai Kirby, but it was for Americans. But man, the boss music. Oh my Christ almighty, this has to be the best Western duel I think I have ever heard. I don't know if it's you or me, but I swear down I hear MIDI in that track. Honestly, if there's a track in this game that uses MIDI, it's gonna be the best fucking track of the game. I swear down. So you get the key and it's finally on to the 3rd world of Pizza Tower. So welcome to World 3, the Vacation Resort. This one's obviously got a bit of a vacation theme going on for it. Oh, this one's gonna be hella fun. You're probably wondering what Gustavo's up to. Well, it looks like that his fight with the rat has finally stopped, although they're a bit damaged, so at least they're chill with each other now. Oh well, I guess we could go ahead and talk about some of the levels while they heal up. So the first level of World 3 is Crust Cove, a beach theme level. I actually quite like how you start out in the cave and then you make your way to the surface where the actual beach is. Well, from what I can tell, it seems there's a bit of a party going on. I mean, there's balloons in the background. Probably want to get a dart monkey on that. Also, these caves at the very beginning of the level, they also have moai in them. The enemy designs as well are pretty nice. You have this treasure chest guy that if you decide to annihilate him, he'll just give you some free points. You can also find these cool little pineapple dudes. They're just kind of vibing, they don't really do a whole lot. They actually do taunt with you, which is pretty cute. And also, Peppino can run on water. I literally had no idea Italians could even do that. You know, now that I think about it, I can definitely see Peppino probably running across the river that's in Venice or something. And actually, if you decide to slow down at any point while on the river, a piranha will try to jump out and bite your ass, but it's a pineapple. You even enter a beached pirate ship, and all of the pirate crew are the pizza goblins from earlier, but now they're all wearing little pirate outfits, and they also try to attack you with a cannon now. Hell, even their captain gets in on the fun. He basically just shoots cannons from the foreground and into the background. Actually kind of reminds me a lot of Solid Snake's Final Smash. I also like that the pirate captain actually opens the way forward on complete accident. You then head down back into the caves. You find these robotic versions of the pizza pirate goblins, and then it's just smooth sailings all the way until you hit the John Pillar, and you know what follows. Now this level, once again, has another transformation, that being the barrel. And well, this ability, you just kinda get in the barrel and you start rolling. Yeah, that's pretty much it, to be fair. There is some light platforming here and there, but for what it is, it's a very simple power-up. There's not really a lot else to it aside from just rolling.
Nice throw!
Actually, there is this one part during the escape sequence where you pretty much just hold the right trigger all the way. Overall, it's a alright ability. Now onto the music of Crust Cove. I did mention earlier that this seems to be a bit of a beach party, so obviously the music fits that whole theme. And it is genuinely the best beach party theme I have ever heard. I will now happily use this theme whenever I go on a beach party sometime, which will be never because I never get out the house anyway. Really good start to World 3, really good. I'll stick ya in the A tier. Next level we have here is Gnome Forest. Now the theme of this level is clearly a magic forest, and that's really all it is, to be fair. Doesn't really go far beyond it just being a magic forest, and obviously most of the enemies in this level are just fantasy stuff. We do have a couple new faces and you get introduced to them pretty quickly here. The first one I'm going to talk about is the Noise Goblin, who just looks exactly like the noise. Now what he does is he just simply fires a little arrow, and said arrow is just a metallic pizza, and it even still has the crust on it, which is quite cute actually. And then you have arguably my favorite enemy in this game, the Pizzad. It's a pizza wizard. That's the coolest thing I think I've ever seen. There is another enemy in this level, but he doesn't show up until later, so I'll mention him when we get there. This level also has these bouncy mushrooms in them, but I don't think anything will prepare you for what the true gimmick of this level is, because you're probably gonna get jump scared by it. Yep, that's right, there's a whole brand new playable character in this level. So this is Gustavo and Brick the Rat. I've talked about Gustavo, and Brick the Rat I haven't, so perfect opportunity to do so, right? Now, Gustavo, I've mentioned him earlier, he is essentially the Mario of this game, or at least design-wise anyway. I mean, I feel like that was pretty obvious. He's basically the Mario to Peppino's Wario. Then you move on to his partner, Brick the Rat. He's the rat that I've been talking about whenever we talk about the hub worlds in this game, and well, he is actually clearly based off of Rick the Hamster from Kirby's Dream Land 2 and Kirby's Dream Land 3. Need even more proof?
Yes.
Their Mark III running animation is based on Stone Rick from Kirby's Dream Land 2 and 3. I have actually heard some people compare him to a brick pizza oven, and I mean, you're not wrong. Definitely sounds like something they'd probably come up with, but I don't think that's actually the case. Decent observation though. Now, in terms of moveset, Gustavo and Brick work very differently compared to Peppino. Honestly, I'd compare them to Knuckles from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, in the sense that they do something very similar to the main character, but the way they do it is marginally different. So for instance, Gustavo and Brick double jump instead of super jump like Peppino does. They can also wall jump. However, the downside is that they are codependent, meaning that if one is separated, which you'll probably mostly do whenever you attack with Brick, Gustavo is kind of defenseless. I say kind of because he can still run and jump, it's just when you're separated from Brick, you can't double jump or wall jump. So there is a bit of a downside to it. However though, it shouldn't be too bad, especially for a casual run, because getting used to this guy isn't exactly the hardest thing in the world. We'll be definitely coming back to that later. But for what it is, it's quite a fun change of pace. I really like playing as these two. Well, now that that's out of the way, how about for the rest of that level, huh? Well, yeah, pretty much for the rest of this level, you just play as these two. Basically, this level, I would say, is the John Gutter for Gustavo and Brick. Basically, letting you get used to how Gustavo and Brick play. Because don't worry, they will definitely be back, at least one more time. And hey, this gives me the chance to talk about the enemy I never mentioned earlier. That being this guy. He's a pickle. Yeah, that's about it. As far as I'm concerned, he seems to be arguably the worst enemy in Pizza Tower, or at least the most annoying to deal with. Basically, he tries to telefrag you, and honestly, as long as you're constantly moving, he really isn't that much of a problem. And since Gustavo can literally just attack people by kicking Brick like he's a fucking bowling ball, yeah, these little pickle guys are just kind of a pushover. You know, with the amount of times that Gustavo kicks Brick and then he hits a wall, I wonder how many brain cells that rat is losing, implying that Brick even has brain cells to begin with. Also, that pickle enemy is actually from another game. He's another guest star appearance, but he isn't transformation like Mort is, which means that Mort is far superior. Don't at me on that one. But this guy is actually from this game. The game is called Memoirs of Magic. I haven't played it myself because I've never heard of this game before, but from what I can see on its itch.io page, it seems to look like a bit of a boom shoot. And hey, if you're into boom shoots, maybe you could give this game a try. I also really like it whenever Gustavo starts crawling. Rick the Rat just stops and starts reading the newspaper. Does that rat even know how to read? This is another level where you get the toppings in a pretty unique way. This time, you have to deliver these pizza gnomes to their customers. And there is a time limit to this, by the way. Well, you know what they say, 30 minutes or it's free. I think probably the best thing about Gnome Forest, however, is probably whenever you switch back to Peppino during the pizza time segment, because this has got to be the funniest image in this fucking game, like, I swear down. Now on to the music of this level, and yeah, it's pretty good as far as I'm concerned. There's 3 tracks in this level. One of them is the Gustavo tutorial theme. I actually won't be showing that one for this video. You can listen to it for yourself, because YouTube does exist, you know. You have a keyboard, you can use it. So the first track we'll take a look at here is Yes, Put the Tree on My Pizza. This is the song that plays literally at the very beginning of the level. This one is another one that I'd say is very underrated, because once again, you barely hear it throughout the main part of the level. And do you want to know the worst part about it? This song samples monkeys. Are you really gonna let a song that samples actual monkeys to be this underrated? That is criminal. I love monkeys. Monkeys are like the coolest thing ever. Like, we literally got Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, and especially Funky Kong. Then you have Woodpecker, the song that plays for the rest of the level, basically when you're playing as Gustavo and Brick. And yeah, I really like this one. It's very chill. Overall, great level, and for that transition image alone, you're going in the S tier. So the next level is Deep Dish 9, a space level. We kinda got a bit of a teaser for this back in Oregano Desert, but here we are, with the full version now. No more random alien spaceship in the middle of a desert. So you start out in what I would assume is some kind of like freight ship kind of thing. Or at least from what I can tell in the background, they seem to be running a bit of a business here, mainly dealing with rockets. And speaking of rockets, you actually take one to different planets. There's two other planets here. You have this weird alien green goopy planet, and in the background there is a pizza mart, because of course there is. There's a pizza mart everywhere these days. There's probably even one in your house right now. You just don't know where it is. And also, you can find this weird little alien guy. He's just kinda there. He's just kinda chilling. Good for him. And then you go to a cheese moon, because the moon is made of cheese. It's like Wallace and Gromit all over again. And actually, you can find this rat over here who's just hooked up on that good old cheesium. Also, on the cheese planet, there's like these cute little cheese droplets. I genuinely want one as a pet like right now. Actually, there's quite a fair few gimmicks in this level. I think probably to kind of make up for the lack of gimmicks in Gnome Forest, really. Actually, one of them you get introduced to long before you even enter the level, that being the weird olive bubble thing. I don't know what it's actually called. Basically, Peppino gets trapped in this olive bubble and he just constantly flies upward, and quickly you find these rockets that you can ride. Basically, whenever Peppino touches one, he just moves forward at an incredible speed. You can only turn when you're on the ground, increase the speed if you hold the analog stick forward, and you can slow down by just letting it go. I also really like that you can also crash into these cheese ball asteroids that are just smoking a pipe right now. Most of the enemies in this level are kind of returning, except for the olives. Well, at least this olive, who's just not in his little spaceship. Actually, the olives did appear in Oregano Desert, but mainly these ones, the ones in their little spaceships. The other one that's new is just this one. It's basically the same thing, but he actually uses his gun now to attack Peppino. Also, the pickles here, just in case you missed them, you also have these teleporter pizzas that basically whenever Peppino touches them, you just teleport to the corresponding teleporter machine. They utilize pretty well in this level, being used both as a obstacle and a means to traverse through the level. And I saved the best gimmick until last, because there's on and off switches now. You know, like the ones from Mario Maker 2. Look, if Pizza Tower ends up having a level maker or something, the floodgates have officially been opened. Can't wait for the next Pizza Tower mod to just make the game some Kaizo hell. Can't wait. I also really like that Gustavo enters by literally just riding in his own rocket with his face on it. That's hilarious. Now, the music of this level is called Extraterrestrial Wah-Wahs. Why is it called that, you may ask? Well, it's called that because the instrument in this theme just makes that sound, so... Overall, this level was pretty fun. I liked it. You can go in the A tier. The last level to end World 3 on is Golf. So do you remember in Wario Land 3, you had this golf minigame that you basically played all the time? It was fun for like the first 3 times, and then after it just kind of got boring. Well, Pizza Town has an entire level based on it, and actually it's quite fun. So yeah, it's just the golf level. That's pretty much it, really. But it's not just a golf level, it's a mini golf course that's a burger restaurant. I'd actually kill to eat at a place like that, I'm not joking. Playing mini golf and eating greasy ass burgers. That sounds like heaven. Yeah, you literally play golf in this level with this little guy. His name is Greaseball. That sounds like something that Moist Critical would come up with. So yeah, pretty basic. You just hit the greaseball into the basketball hoop and you get ranked based on how many hits you got. You have Primo Burg, Hot Dog, Nice Nachos, that's probably my favorite one, and then nothing. They don't even bother to insult you, they just say nothing. I'd argue that's even more insulting. Couple new enemies. We have this little burger guy that just kind of knocks your greaseball back. He actually does add a point on, so make sure you kill him. Then you also have the Pinky Demon's long lost cousin. I guess it makes sense because the title card for this level is literally based on Doom. There is a new transformation here, being Ball Peppino. I say new in quotations because Ball Peppino actually appeared way earlier on in the game, but he's mainly utilized here as a main ability. And I also really like that all the rats have actually been replaced with bowling pin rats, which I find quite funny. You have like these cheese guys that throw you, and you obviously become Ball Peppino after. It's actually pretty cool. They can even throw the little grease ball around as well. That's kind of fun. I also like that you get all the toppings in this level by actually beating these golf courses. All the courses are named after like stuff you'd find in a burger joint, so like fries, soda, burgers. You also have these noses that keep the grease ball in place. Okay. I also like that even during the pizza time segment, you have to play golf in order to escape. I just find that kind of funny. Like, imagine your life is on the line and you have to play like a boxing match or something in order to escape. Music of this level called Good Eatin', and well, I actually quite like this one. It's very chill, very nice for a golf themed level. And well, I don't want to be the guy, but I also really like that this track actually samples microwave noises. Like, come on, dude. Sampling microwave noises. Like, what's next? A vacuum cleaner? Really good level, really good. I quite liked it. This one could go in the A tier as well. Well, would you look at that, it's boss fight time again. This time we're up against the Noise. Now, the Noise is very clearly inspired by that of the Noid, Domino's very old mascot. Just minus the whole hostage situation and NFT shilling. Now, in relations to Peppino, the Noise is actually his arch rival, which, you know, would obviously make sense considering he's based on the Noid and Peppino is a pizza guy. But not only that, is he even has the whole wordplay thing. Now, in case you didn't know, the Noid's name is actually wordplay from the word annoyed, and obviously the noise is the same, but instead is now with a noise, because the noise annoys Peppino. Now onto the actual boss fight itself. The only thing I'll give it for right now is the fact that it's at least harder than Vigilante. The Noise has 8 hit points. Nice to know that we're slowly going down. Pepperman had 10, Vigilante had 9, and now Noise is 8. Now his boss fight is very similar to Pepperman, where he has 2 versions of one attack, but in this case he has 4 attacks. So let's run through them real quick. One of these attacks has him fly up in a balloon and he drops bombs from above, riding on a little skateboard. He'll try to run you over with it. He also can get on his jetpack and he can bounce around the arena for a little bit. And he also gets on his little pogo stick and bounces around the arena. So he basically just sounds like a Pepperman, right? Well, there are some things that make him interesting. First of all, he's actually completely random. Now, the attacks I mentioned, he does do those, but instead it's just completely random on what he wants to do. So essentially, you get a little bit less time to react to whatever it is he's about to do. And the second thing that makes this fight a little more interesting is every time he does a move again, he'll actually add on to it. So like for instance, the balloon move I mentioned earlier, when he does it for the second time, he'll drop a second bomb. And when you make it to the second phase, he'll just keep adding more onto it. Like, for instance, when he does the balloon for the third time, he drops a little decoy, which explodes. He also can now kick the skateboard, so it forces Peppino to go to the other side of the arena. When he's done jumping on his pogo stick, he'll whip out a big old pizza crusher, very similar to the Noid's gadget, and he'll cause a shockwave on the floor, as well as summon some enemies in. These are called Noisies, they just look like him. Also, neat little detail, you can actually get a free hit on the Noise at the very beginning of the fight. They really want to make sure that you know that the Noise is annoying. And I mean, literally every time he's done doing an attack, he either smiles at the camera, literally shakes his ass, and he literally flips you off. I hate this guy so much that I literally want to knock him into next week.
There comes a giant pig! Swim along!
I also really like at the end of the fight, the Noise basically gets a Gatling gun, which is his win condition. Only at that exact moment that his girlfriend, who is Noisette by the way, walks in and literally just takes him away. Apparently it was past curfew. Noisette just probably walks in like, babe, it's 4 PM, time to do the laundry. And then the Noise just goes, I love this character. Now onto the music of the boss fight, that being Pimpin' Hot Stuff. I really dig this track. This is the Noise's main theme, by the way, and he has good taste in music. It sounds very Sonic CD to me, which I guess makes sense considering, you know, rivals, you know? And there is a laughing sample somewhere in the song, and I swear down, it sounds just like Dr. Neo Cortex. I cannot be the only one that hears Dr. Neo Cortex in that song. So you nabbed the key, which honestly I felt a lot more proud doing considering I kicked his ass, and we're moving on to floor number 4. Welcome to floor 4, the slums. Yep, gone are the days of going on a nice, relaxing vacation and we're straight back into hell. You're probably wondering what Gustavo and Brick are up to. They're playing some cards. You know, at least they're occupied. Also wanted to quickly mention about this little guy. His name's Snotty. Don't kill him. Oh, and you can also find a missing poster for Snick the Porcupine. Basically Pizza Tower's bootleg Sonic. I love him. So the first level we have here is Pig City, which the theme of this level is an entire city inhabited by pigs. So it's basically GM Big City, but there's a pig now. Now I've heard in the grapevine that Pig City is arguably one of Pizza Tower's best levels. And while saying that isn't exactly saying much, to be fair, considering the levels so far have just been absolutely phenomenal, but that doesn't necessarily mean I disagree, because yeah, this is probably one of Pizza Tower's best levels, like hands down. Not even 10 seconds into the level, we're already introduced to this level's gimmicks. We have this balloon rat that Peppino can grab and he just flies up, that's about it. And then not even 10 seconds after that, Pizza Tower now officially has rail grinding. See, that's what Pizza Tower's missing, rail grinding. Like, if your platformer doesn't have rail grinding in it, what are you doing with your life? I also really like that you take these taxis to other parts of the city where you see these pigs just kind of break dancing. You also have these pig coppers that basically when you approach them, they'll handcuff you, and in order to get rid of them, you need to turn around while doing a Mark III and just ram into them. And they also have an incredibly funny death sprite that you can now see up close. Very, very close. This is also how you get the top-ins, by the way, by taking the taxis, which have these transition images, where Peppino looks like he's about to piss himself. And pretty much it's just smooth sailings until you reach the third taxi, or at least the end of the third taxi room. Well, if you decide to veer off a little bit, because you might notice this over here, which looks like bacon, and it is bacon. And if you actually decide to venture over here, you can find the bacon room, an entire room dedicated to bacon in a city inhabited by pigs. Oh no, with this weird pig guy kind of staring at you from the background. He doesn't do anything, but he just stares, and it's just weird, man. I'm leaving. Once you enter the third taxi, which was actually a fake out and actually police car, and obviously Peppino is taken to jail, only to find, hey, look, it's Gustavo and Brick.
Hello.
And we can play as them again. Hell yeah. And now we get into the second half of the level, where we play as Gustavo and Brick again, returning from Gnome Forest. And this is where I think where Gustavo and Brick's gameplay peak for me. So it's, you know, standard Gustavo and Brick gameplay, you know, you're probably used to this from Gnome Forest by now. I also really like that the background changes from a city inhabited by pigs, and now you've made your way downtown, and you're now fighting against these shrimp dudes. You made your way to Shrimp City now, or Shrimp Downtown, or whatever this place wants to be called. And, well, like before, you take the taxis and get the last couple top-ins. However, instead, Gustavo and Brick actually get to use the gimmicks of the level now. Yeah, the gimmicks that Peppino was using. But the thing is it's not the same. They're used differently. Like, for instance, the balloon rat that I talked about earlier, instead of just simply flying up and letting go, Gustavo and Brick will instead, Brick literally just eats the balloon. He becomes round, and due to the weight of these two, they'll slowly float down. But if you press A, you'll get an insane amount of verticality, and you can also follow it up with a double jump if you want to. The grind rails that I mentioned earlier, Gustavo now uses them as monkey bars, and the pig cops from earlier, now instead of capturing Peppino, or just Gustavo in this case, they now capture Brick, leaving Gustavo pretty vulnerable. So you need to go make your way over to the pig cops and beat them up to save Brick. I also like that the John Pillar is located in a house, Grandma Pig's house apparently, who's just watching Gustavo on TV, only to then just suddenly have that realization that the whole city was being held up by a rectangle. And yeah, obviously due to the fact that you've essentially killed the means of these pigs' entire society, yeah, they're gonna die, aren't they? Oh well, it's either me or possible future bacon. I also like that when you take the taxi out of jail, I like that Pizzaface is driving it. That's kind of funny. Oh yeah, you can also find this old person in the first house, you know, before you start the level. You can try to touch him, but he just kind of slaps you out the way. He kind of reminds me of Eustace.
No, sir. Not get out of this chair.
So the music of this level, we have two, again. We have the first one, Bite the Crust. Yeah, this one's just funky. It's very Wario Land. Not much else to say about it other than it's good. So the second track being Way of the Pig, yeah, this one I would say is the better one of the two in my opinion. I love that it samples pigs, and god, that intro. The intro to the song just hits every time, man. Yeah, this is definitely an S tier level. This is arguably Gustavo and Brick's best level. So yeah, you can go in the S tier. So next we have is Peppibot Factory. It is a factory theme level, and what does the factory produce? Well, it actually produces pizzas from Peppino's Pizza, and it is all ran by these Peppino robots. So it's basically man versus machine all over again. Man, this AI stuff is pretty bad. What the fuck did you just say? Now the first area, which I would assume is we're scaling up a building to get inside of the factory, there's a couple of things, namely the enemies of course. Well, we have these two sausage guys, both of them are wearing fedoras, so they probably browse Reddit from time to time. You have the brown one that doesn't really do anything, but the red one actually does do something, mainly upon death. Whenever you defeat him, he'll drop a jar of something, I'm not really too sure, but then when it hits the floor, it will summon a fist that flies over to Peppino, and it tries to hit him. Then you have the namesake of this level, the actual Peppibots themselves. They're going to be the enemy you see pretty much throughout the majority of this level. I like their designs, they're goofy. And also these little plug sockets as well. They were actually in previous levels, but this one they used a little bit more frequently compared to other levels. Now, once we enter the factory, things get a little bit more interesting. You have these conveyor belts that either push Peppino forward or push him back, depending on which direction you're traveling. Some of them even dispense either the treadmills that make Peppino run in a direction, or they have the plug sockets as obstacles. Sometimes the treadmills are actually used as obstacles as well. Then you also have these hands that pick you up and carry your momentum. And actually pretty late into this level here, we get introduced to another transformation, that being Pizza Box Peppino. So you kids remember Super Meat Boy, right? And you got Fly Wrench, that one unlockable character in Super Meat Boy. I think you got him in Hell, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, just for those who haven't played the game before, Fly Wrench sucks. And basically, Pizza Box Peppino is basically Fly Wrench if he was a good character. Pizza Box Peppino has a certain number of jumps. He can't fly indefinitely, but he definitely has a lot more jumps compared to any other character in this game. He can also press X to do a spinning attack, which is actually pretty satisfying to hit a lot of the time, especially in a group of little rats that you plow through. You basically use this ability very late into the normal part of the level, and you pretty much use the ability all the way through pizza time as well. It's a fun ability. I like this one. Now, the music of Peppibot Factory, we have a A-B track thing again, so the first one being Pizza Engineer, and before any of you ask, no, Pizza Engineer does not build sentries, teleporters, and dispensers. I know, disappointing. This is, in my opinion, the best factory music I have heard. Like, literally, whenever I go to visit, like, a factory or something, I expect to hear this theme. Like, if your factory does not have this theme, but you get the idea, it makes factories actually look fun. Now onto the second track for Peppibot Factory. This one just kind of goes a bit more harder on the instruments and the factory samples as well. You probably have also heard the Door Stuck sample in the song as well. And before you ask, no, it's not a sample of the popular CSGO meme. Actually, there is a version of the song out there that does replace those samples with the CSGO Door Stuck samples, if you're interested. Overall though, this song's incredible. Probably my favorite of the two of them. I love Peppibot Factory. It's a cool one. This one can go in A tier. So the next level we're going to talk about is Oh Shit, which, yeah, the level is literally called Oh Shit, which tells me that the developers probably ran out of budget at this point. I would assume that the reason we're even in the sewer is so that we can dumpster dive for some more. Unlike a couple of the things that they show off in the sewer, such as this area with all the graffiti art, especially this picture of the noise here. This is by far the best drawing of the noise I think I have ever seen. Sit down, Twitter artists, because whoever drew this is an absolute champion. And hey, it isn't even just the noise who's in here. There's a couple other masterpieces in this level as well, like this picture of a wizard, or this weird garbage can, or this weird drawing of Peppino. And hey look, it seems to be a little bit of a crossover episode, because in the left hand corner of this here, we can find Huntin, you know, from the hit video game, Huntin Ball Deluxe. And remember kids, we all know how good Huntin is at fondling his balls. This level has a couple interesting gimmicks, literally one of them being introduced to us in the first 10 seconds again, that being Cheese Monster Peppino. Basically, you need to find this giant cheese blob that hurls out cheese balls, and you have to just basically let it hit you. You'll then get absorbed by the cheese ball, and once you hit a solid surface, you'll turn into this weird cheese monster thing, where basically you can now wall jump and stick to solid surfaces. I also really like the design of this ability, because it honestly reminds me a lot of Zombie Wario, which, if it was based on Zombie Wario, that's adorable. We also have this enemy also introduced to us, being this ninja pizza guy, and yeah, you can instantly put 2 and 2 together that it's a reference to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I brought back some takeout, so let's get down and pig out.
It's Shredder!
Another gimmick we have here is Mr. Pinch, who is basically a penny pinching bungee rope. So obviously as a bungee rope, he grabs you, and due to Peppino's mass weight, he goes down, but then obviously pulls you back up, and you can kind of slingshot yourself to new platforms. And since he kind of looks like Mr. Burns, he gets a bit of monetary gain out of this as well. You also have these green sewer pipes that Peppino can run into, very similar to a Mario pipe, and he just kind of gets smacked around a little bit when he's inside, and he comes running out of the yellow pipe, which is the exit. So you remember in Wasteyard where Peppino could surf on a literal rotting corpse? Well, now we have the sequel to that, where Peppino literally snowboards on a garbage can. Okay, this is single-handedly the coolest fucking sewer level I think I've ever played in a video game. Now onto the music of this level. God, it's so good. The name of the song is Tubular Trash Zone. Kind of funny how the level aesthetic is based on a Mario level, and the song that accompanies it feels like it was from a Sonic level. But honestly, holy fuck that electric guitar, man. Such a cool level. Actually, never mind, such a shit level. S tier. So the last level of World 4 here is Refrigerator, Freezerator. Yeah, I know, it's a bit of a mouthful. So for the rest of this section, I'm just gonna call it RR Freezerator. So RR Freezerator is of course the ice level, as you can clearly see here. Now, ice levels in platformers are another one of those platformer tropes that not that many people are too fond of. Why? Usually ice physics, and that's about it really. Specifically looking at you, Cold Hard Crash. Anyway, ice levels are kind of the same as desert levels in a sense, where they just kind of feel a bit unoriginal, I guess, and you add in the added ice physics, and yeah, they're much worse than desert levels, at least for most people. So Freezerator obviously breaks that norm. I think this is probably one of my favorite levels in the game, or maybe my favorite level in the game, like entirely, but I don't know about that. I can never really pick favorites. Let's talk about the scenery, because I like this one. We start out in a freezer, and we also have this guy who's just in a bathtub fighting for his life. And then you make your way and you find this fridge, like this giant fridge, and it looks like some big snowy mountain. And then hell, you even go inside the fridge, the giant mountain fridge. I feel like a Pikmin character. And hey, look, Gustavo's playing in the snow. Aw, that's so cute. Oh, and that reminds me. I finally figured out how to change Peppino's outfits. Yes, Peppino has a plethora of cosmetic options that you can unlock throughout the entire game. Most of them are very easy to get and you'll probably just get them without even realizing it. You'll probably just get them by sneezing, to be honest. But some of them are a little bit more challenging. But honestly, my favorite cosmetics in this game are the ones with the patterns on them, because the way that they're animated reminds me a lot of Chowder, and I love Chowder. Chowder's the GOAT. And also there is another reason why I specifically chose green for this level, but you'll have to wait for that. So how about the enemies this time? Well, most of them are obviously winter themed, like this snowman who, well, he's basically just a Fork Knight. Yeah, I've kind of neglected the Fork Knight clones of Pizza Tower a little bit, like this one. He's basically the Fork Knight, but he doesn't flinch, which makes him the most annoying enemy in the game. Well, unless you can either parry, or for some reason, if you jump at a specific angle, you can hit him before the carrot nose even touches Peppino. I don't even know how that's a thing, but I guess Peppino has a jank-ass hitbox. It's Smash Melee all over again. We also have this weird little frozen disc guy that shoots icicles in an X formation, and then we also have a fake version of Santa, who basically acts like Lakitu from Mario and just drops enemies from the sky. Now onto the gimmicks that Freezerator offers. First, we have this jetpack, which Peppino gets, and he gets a little bit of an air boost, and you can keep that jump going by touching these ice blocks. It's kind of satisfying to keep the chain going, and sometimes there's these weird little birds in them, and you can free them. It's kind of pointless, but you want to free the little birdies, because they look cute. Then you make it to this room with all this, like, you know, basic platforming and stuff. But then you hit this, I would assume it's some kind of oven, and you turn the dial up, and the ice that you just platformed on immediately just kind of thaws out, and it basically creates a new area that you can platform on. Which, I know it's probably nothing special, but to me that's, like, really cool. I also like that a couple of the breaking boxes in this level are just kind of like stuff you'd find in like a freezer or a fridge or something. That's funny. So after dealing with Santas, you finally make your way inside the fridge, and you head down this chasm only to find this pedestal with this pizza, which has the label of Satan's Choice. You pick it up, and we get introduced to another transformation, where Peppino becomes fucking Dynamite Anton. See? There you go. That's why I chose the color green. Anyway, this new transformation is Pepper Pizza Peppino, which makes me confused as to why he can eat a literal pepper from fucking hell, and yet this man can't even eat a spicy chicken. Riddle me that one, Batman. Basically, this ability just makes Peppino impervious to all types of damage, and not only that, he can now basically Shine Spark. You can even destroy these ice blocks with it as well, which you probably don't really think too much about, but, and trust me, you'll find out why soon enough. I also like it that Gustavo has spent so much time playing in the snow that he's quite literally frozen up when he's trying to show you the way back to the entrance of the level. Now onto the music of Freezerator. We kind of have 3 tracks to talk about this time. I know, we're finally breaking new ground. We went from 1 to 2 to 3. Oh boy. Can't wait for 4 tracks in one level. The first one we have is, and I quote by the way, "Don't preheat your oven, because if you do, the song won't play." The melody of this song though is so good. It's so Christmassy, it's so charming, I fucking love it. Honestly, I probably would add it to a Christmas playlist, but I can already hear Mariah Carey. They're already thawing it out, and it ain't even Halloween yet. Moving on to the second track, being Celsius Troubles. It's basically the exact same track, only much more faster paced. And then we have the third track, that being On the Rocks. This song actually plays when you grab the pepper pizza, and it's probably the most Italian song in this game aside from the tutorial music. Kind of an underrated one, I'm not gonna lie. Overall though, this level is absolutely fantastic, but honestly the main selling point of this level is the fact that it doesn't have any ice physics, so for that alone, you're going in the S tier. Alright, time to talk about the next boss fight, that being Fake Peppino, who is a clone of Peppino. Nothing suspicious about that at all. Now, compared to all the other bosses, Fake Peppino is a bit weird, because, well, he was never actually shown in the intro cutscene to the game, whereas everybody else was. He's just kind of squiggly lines. And it isn't until floor 4 where we actually get introduced to the guy properly, in which you basically fight him in a bootleg version of Peppino's Pizza called Peppino's Pizza 2, because of course there needed to be a sequel. In terms of character, he reminds me quite a lot of Fake Crash from the Crash games, mainly for the whole bootleg character design, to be honest, and also the SAX from Metroid Fusion. You're probably wondering why. Don't worry, you'll find out. And speaking of bootleg, most of the moves that he unleashes on Peppino in the boss fight are very similar to his. Like, he can grab you, he can super jump, he can taunt, and he can of course run. The other moves are just kind of his own moves that he does himself, which are pretty weird. Like, he can frog jump and try to crush Peppino. He can literally just take off his head and throw it at you, just leaving his brain exposed. Bro looks like fucking SpongeBob. Now, in terms of the fight itself, it's fine. I think still the noise so far was the hardest fight in the game. This one is kind of like Vigilante, where there are definitely moments in which you can just sort of easily cheese it. Like, for instance, this move where he's just doing the frog jumps. You can literally just stand here and he will never hit you. Like, it is that easy. Another thing about this fight is that it's quite long, mainly because of how long it takes to actually get a hit point off of him. Basically, the way it works is you need to hit him twice. You need to hit him once and hit him again, and then you can take a free hit point. But instead of moving on to the next move like the other bosses do, instead he'll kind of retreat for a while and have these other fake Peppinos just emerge. Totally nothing suspicious about that in the slightest. And basically, they just kind of do the same move, but in mass. So, like, you know, if he's trying to grab you, then a bunch of these Peppinos will try to grab you as well. I wouldn't say it's as cheesy as Vigilante, because there are some moves that you do have to pay a little bit of attention to, but yeah, it is just kind of easy. I also really like how Fake Peppino actually wears the exact same clothes that Peppino wears, and the other clones that emerge actually wear darker versions of the clothes, just for a little bit of visual indication that they're not the ones that you're after. Second phase, I would say, is a little bit harder, because they now throw in some extra fake clones to kind of throw you off a little bit, so it's just basically micromanagement. So a lot of the time your best option might just be to ignore Fake Peppino so you can focus on dodging the other Fake Peppino. Well, you've played Pizza Tower for long enough at this point, you know that there's going to be some catch at the end of the fight, in which it's just a goddamn chase sequence with, oh my god, what the hell is that? Get your ass out of there, fucking fat ass, go now, go, go, go. So yeah, this is where the whole SAX thing comes in, and yeah, he just kind of becomes like an eldritch horror monster, in which this part of the fight is probably the easiest, mainly because if you run, you just basically leave him in the dust. Like, despite the fact that this guy can literally run like Peppino, why does he decide to do that? Well, if you decide to walk this part of the fight, then yeah, he's constantly behind you, so he's a lingering threat, but most players aren't even going to do that anyway. Kinda wish that he did keep up with the player. I think that would just add a lot more tension to the fight, but overall, I liked it. And apparently this restaurant was called Bruno Pizza. So while doing research for this boss fight, I actually came across some fake Peppino concept art, and well, taking a look at it for myself, honestly, I'll just let the pictures speak for themselves. Kind of a shame that we never really got to see these in the actual game itself, and they were just kinda left in concept art heaven. I would absolutely love to see these adapted into the actual game itself. I think it would look so fucking cool. Now onto the music of the boss fight. This one's actually pretty interesting because the song itself is just an entire leitmotif of It's Pizza Time, which is basically the song of Pizza Tower, which I mentioned earlier. And I mean, I feel like it's not exactly hiding the whole leitmotif fact because the song itself is called Pizza Time Never Ends. The way it's portrayed is, it still sounds like the song, but it just kind of adds that little bit of uneasiness to it that just kind of puts you on edge a little bit. So, we get the key after escaping whatever the hell that was, and now it's finally time to go to floor 5. And here we are, floor 5 everyone. This is the last floor of Pizza Tower. Not that many levels left. If you want to check out what Gustavo and Brick are doing, they're kinda terrified. Well, unless you look away from them. When you look at them, they just kinda play it cool. Now, before we get into the last few levels here, I wanted to quickly mention the hub worlds again, and to talk about something that I've been alluding to actually way earlier in the video. And it's the fact that all of these hub worlds actually have secret rooms for you to find. Now, these secret rooms are pretty dang hard to find, honestly. You're really gonna have to, like, honestly just bonk your head on literally every wall in the game and hope to God that one of them break. Now, each floor in the entire game has at least one secret room for you to find. And, well, I already found all of them, and I'm just gonna share them with you all because yeah, honestly, do you really want to give Peppino a concussion? So let's get started. Floor 1's secret room is just simply a nod to old beta designs of some enemies in Pizza Tower. We have a beta pizza goblin, Pillar John, we have this guy sitting on a weenie sausage, I think he was a cut enemy, and another cut enemy, this big old cheese dragon, who was apparently from an older level. I actually don't remember what the level's called, but I know he's from an older level in the game, and that's about it. Floor 2 has this weird room with a rolling meatball, and you can't touch it, and you can't ground pound it for some reason, and well, as you can clearly see here, I'm ground pounding the thing, which means I'm a bad boy. Yeah. Well, 3 actually is kind of interesting, as it's just a pizza carnival. Now, a lot of people have pointed out that this is actually a cut level from the game, and honestly, I would have really liked to see a carnival theme level in the game, but unfortunately, it's a cut level, so we're probably never going to get it. Oh, and speaking of, you can actually go in this thing, and you can find this little circus tent, and touching it will turn you into a clown, which is probably a reference to me, because I'm a clown in real life. See, this is what I look like. World 4 has 2 secrets. The first one here is this guy called Mr. Car. I think it's another piece of content, but I'm not so sure. I would assume it probably belongs in Pig City. And then we also have this garbage can with someone inside of it, and I'm just going to assume it's Mr. Stick because, yeah, that's where most tax collectors live. They live in the garbage can. The World 4's second secret room is actually pretty popular because it's Noisette's Cafe, which is actually a reference to some little comics that McPig made featuring Noisette as a main character. Honestly, these little comics are really cute and funny. They're just charming, and I love them. You should give them a read. Moving on to World 5 now, the first one we have is yet another cut level, being a mansion theme level. I did hear in the grapevine that this one was supposed to have fake Peppino be a part of it, and I would assume that, well, due to the fact that he's now a boss fight in the game, I assume it was cut maybe because of that, or I don't know, maybe something else. But then the second room is a laundromat, and well, look who finally decided to cave in and do the laundry. Well, I mean, it's in his own special little way though, but you know, at least he's doing it. But then there's also this weird character who has a little sheet all over him. He looks familiar, but like, I don't know, he looks so familiar. I wonder who it could be. Comments, you really gotta help me out, man. tell me who this character is and I'll give you a donut. That's about it, really. There's a few more levels left. Let's get this show on the road. So the first level that World 5 introduces us to is Pizzascare, and well, I'm just gonna rip the band-aid straight off. Yeah, it's just Pizzascape but with a Halloween theme. Well, at least the dev team seems to be a bit self-aware about that whole fact. Now yes, this is a Halloween theme. Well, this level looks pretty as shit. I love festive themes in video games. They always just get so creative and colourful with it. I love them. This level's no different, however, because, well, this entire level is basically decorated from head to toe with all of these Halloween decorations. Like, we start out here and we see the giant tower with all these spooky faces popping out, and a church next to it. The moon has a scary face and these little ghosts are flying around. You then go inside the tower and you find all these scary faces of like this pizza goblin, this weird pig guy, Santa apparently. But then you might have also noticed these two faces as well. And well, for those who are completely uneducated, I'll tell you, these are actually fan bootleg recolors of Peppino and the Noise, called Pedito and the Doys. The video comes from a YouTube channel by the name of Robbie One's Cool, where he uploaded a 5-second video of these two characters, and apparently the devs loved him so much that they threw them in the game as a little cute cameo. And well, after watching the video myself, apparently the Doys is Sans. Hey, sit down, MatPat, because I'm about to make the next best Undertale theory the world has ever seen. You also have this giant pizza skull, and you also have this purple flame with a face. You also have these pillars with all these spooky faces on them. We have fake Peppino, Pepperman, and Noise. And then we have this weird wall with a creepy John pillar, a rat, and a Gustavo. And then you go into this room with like these skulls and these guys with hoods on, and you even get some Grim Reapers in the background as well. I love that all the breakable blocks in this level are all just like Halloween stuff, like pumpkins, skulls, and hell, even candy. I also love the enemies of this level because 2 of them are just returning enemies, but the catch is that they've actually been completely redesigned to fit the Halloween theme. So for instance, the Fork Knights who originally appeared in Pizzascape now are turned into ghosts with knives, and they're impervious to all damage. Then you also have the pepperoni goblins who have been transformed into bat pepperoni goblins. So they basically are now colored purple and they fly around now. And onto the level gimmicks, we have this first one, which is just this King Cheese ghost guy. And he basically follows Peppino around and he haunts various objects. Like, he can haunt these giant sockets and try to electrocute you. He can haunt this anchor that drops from the sky. And he can also haunt the little kickball machines that turn Peppino into Ball Peppino. Now, it may seem like a bit of an annoyance to the player, which, trust me, it is, but in some instances, you will actually need him in order to progress. So sometimes he might actually get captured in a little TV, so you need to go out of your way to save him. And also, all of the priests have now turned into exorcists, and when you pass by one of them, they give you a free cross, which essentially makes Peppino invincible for a couple seconds, which is how you defeat the Fork Knight ghosts in this level. It also seems that Gustavo's getting in on the Halloween fun, because he's decided to dress up as a rat this year. So as you would guess, this is a Halloween remix of Pizzascape's track Hot Spaghetti, and god damn it, does it slap hard. Yeah, I really liked this level. I really did. Honestly, I kinda wish they did something other than the castle again. Don't get me wrong, this level's great, but I think that would have given it just a little bit more of an edge for me. Overall though, pretty solid level. It's gonna go in the A tier. So the next level we have here is Don't Make a Sound. And well, it's the FNAF level.
Your mother?
Yeah, this level's loosely based on Five Nights at Freddy's. So likewise, the entire place is a kids' pizza party. So you have a show stage with all the animatronics on it. Then you go into this little hallway with all these cute little posters. My personal favorite one is this one of the noise, because he's about to fucking die. You make your way into the kitchen, and then you go into this storage room with all these boxes. Apparently the poor old health inspector didn't make it. And you also have this pizza costume just hanging from the ceiling. I would assume that this is a reference to FNAF 1's Game Over screen, because of the whole eye thing. And then you make your way up to the electrical room. Now, the enemies of this level are very interesting because 2 of them actually synergize with the main gimmick of this level. The only one that doesn't is this guy. His name's Clown Mato. He's just minding his own business. Then you have these 2 enemies who synergize with the main gimmick of the level. They basically are just little robots that act as alarms. Basically, you step in their general vicinity and they start counting down from 5. They hit 0, they make a loud sound. And that sound synergizes with the main gimmick of the level, that of course being the animatronics themselves. So now the animatronics, in fact, do get a little bit quirky at night, and they kind of just stand around and don't do anything.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
Until the alarm is set off. Then they'll just kind of chase you around, and if they end up catching you, you get hit with. It's even funnier because it's just like Five Nights at Freddy's. It's just some shitty PNG. And every time you get jump scared by an animatronic in this game, Peppino even gets turned into a little animatronic version of himself. Once again, obviously referencing Five Nights at Freddy's. And apparently there's even a small chance you can get hit with. Honestly, that's what Security Breach was missing all along. If Security Breach had a jump scare like that in the game would have been saved. The animatronics themselves are just obviously loosely based on the topping characters. Like, you have this mushroom robot guy, you have a blob of cheese, this marionette tomato, who I would assume is loosely based on the puppet from Five Nights at Freddy's. Then you have this butcher who got his head shoved into a giant sausage, and Elvis Presley, but he's a pineapple now. So yeah, basically this level just kind of becomes a massive stealth horror level, and it's really goddamn fun. They actually throw in these segments where you need to actually activate the alarm in order to progress, putting you in a lot of stress because now you're trying to run away from whatever animatronic just decides to chase after you for that day. Hell, there's even one part where you literally just run away from the lot of them. There's also this gimmick that involves this sticky cheese. Basically the way it works is it basically makes it so that Peppino can't jump. You just need to preemptively jump before you hit it. And well, if you decide to stand on it a bit too long, you're basically a sitting duck for the animatronics to come and grab you, and well, you get hit with. Oh, there was supposed to be a jump scare there. Guess he's late. Then, getting past all of the animatronics gives us with the final transformation of the entire game, that being the shotgun. Now, the shotgun is a fairly basic transformation. You obviously just get a shotgun. You trade out your grab move for a shotgun blast. That's about it. But the thing is about the shotgun blast, it insta-kills anything, even the animatronics. So now you get to basically do what every Five Nights at Freddy's fan has wanted to do. Run into a Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria as Scout and kill the fuck out of the animatronics.
You all suck!
I also like that the ability icon that you can find in the HUD is just Duke Nukem. Actually, all the abilities in this game have a little HUD icon. Kind of reminds me a lot of Kirby Superstar with its ability icons. And unfortunately, it seems Gustavo himself has been caught by the animatronics, because he's been turned into one of them too. Now onto the music of this level. Honestly, I don't really have much else to say about this track. It just goes for a very horror vibe, and that's really all it needs to be. You know what? It's alright. Yeah, this level was super fucking fun. This one goes in the S tier. Welcome to the final level of Pizza Tower, everybody, simply called War. And this level does not fuck about. Now this level is actually very based on the final level of Wario Land 4 being called Golden Passage. The main gimmick of that level was the fact that you started on the time limit, when usually you would get like 2/3 away through the stage and then you would hit the timer. No, you start it right at the beginning of the level, get everything and get out of here. Wario Land 4 though was pretty generous on its time. So what about Pizza Tower? Is it going to be somewhat generous? Yep, this level is super generous as it only gives you 40 seconds to get through the entire level. Good luck, don't die. All jokes aside, it does seem impossible. 40 seconds for a long ass stage like this, how the hell am I supposed to do that? Well, let me introduce you to these things. These are war terminals. Basically, if you destroy one of these, you get an extra 30 seconds on your clock, which gives you extra time to book it through the stage. I don't say this very lightly, you need to look for these. You need to destroy them. Now, they're not super hidden, like you can literally just kind of spot them as long as you pay attention. So if I were you, I would go after these as much as possible. If there is one that you can go for it. Ignore everything if you must, but go for it. Trust me, it's really gonna help. And well, to emphasize the whole fact that this level is complete hell, we also have a bit of a battlefield going on here. Now don't worry, because it actually does get a little bit more interesting, because we actually end up going into some kind of underground secret lab, and it has these test tubes of these pepinos, and weirdly enough, John Pillar. And hey, even the enemies are dressed up for the occasion too. We have these bush camping pizzas that just kind of hide in these bushes until you approach them. You can basically gun them down before they gun you down, so it's not too difficult. We have these bomber races that just kind of fly midair. I don't think that's how planes work. And then we have these giant pizza box tanks that shoot a giant missile of pizza at Peppino. The missiles they shoot are pretty slow, and you actually need some of these missiles in order to destroy a couple big stupid rats that kind of block the way, which means you have to wait a little bit and just adds more stress on the fact that the timer is still ticking down even if you're just standing still. And looks like fake Peppino wasn't the only faker, because we've even got some more fake Peppinos. This time they actually look dead on to Peppino, except when you approach them, they'll kind of transform into these weird frog things and they'll try to lick you as an attack. They basically just go down like every other enemy, run into them, or just press the X button, because we still have the shotgun, remember? We doing this like Doom.
Merciless extermination.
And hell, even Gustavo fucking shows up, the absolute Chad. Even when there's a literal war going on, he will come down to help out Peppino, and he's even wearing a little soldier outfit with a rocket launcher that shoots out brick like a missile. Kinda looks like the soldier. Does this mean we're getting a new rocket launcher that's just a homing rat rocket?
No.
Now, the music of this level, I have to say, is absolutely fucking brilliant. I think this is probably one of my favorite tracks in the game, just hands down. Obviously, it nails the whole war theme very well. Bombastic, it's intense, it gets the job done. But honestly, the part that made me love this track was the part where the MIDI kicks in and just has like a solo. Oh yeah, this level, instant S tier, instantaneous S tier, and I don't want anyone disagreeing about it if you disagree with it. If you do, you suck! Alright, this is it. It's finally time to take on the true final boss of Pizza Tower. So, we give Mr. Stick the money that he needs, and that is the most anticlimactic boss door I think I've ever seen in this game. You know what, we're not going to talk about it because I just want to kick this guy's ass and be done with it. So we end up going into this weird creepy hallway with all these weird pizza faces, and one even turns around to kind of put you on edge. And well, there is something in this room that you aren't supposed to see. Arguably, something so scary that you're going to literally saw yourself the second I mention it. Pizzaface taking a fucking shower. Seems he wasn't expecting Peppino to get here so quickly. I mean, he did play cards with Noisette and Fast Food Saloon, but you know, whatever. Kicking your ass either way. Alright, this is it. It's finally time to talk about the true final boss of Pizza Tower. That, of course, being Pizzaface. Now, this boss is actually probably the most unique boss fight in the entire game, and subsequently, he's actually the best boss fight in the game. I mean, I figured he probably would have been, because if he wasn't, then the game probably would have ended on a bit of a sour note, wouldn't it? But luckily, it doesn't. Now, the first phase of the fight is actually probably the easiest. It's very reminiscent of Bowser from Super Mario World. So basically, he summons enemies, and you just need to grab the enemies and knock them back in his face, and you can take a hit point off of them. He can also slam the ground with his face, and an enemy will just come shooting from the bottom all the way up to the top, and same story, just grab him, knock him in his face, and you take him out pretty quickly here. Pretty easy for a first phase of the final boss fight. But don't worry, it gets better, because it turns out that Pizzaface isn't actually the final boss. Instead, the face opens up to reveal that someone was inside Pizzaface controlling it like a mech suit or something, and he's on the John. This is Pizzahead, so he went from just a mech with a face, and now he's a Tumblr sexy man. I now retract my statement, comparing you to Mr. Dot from Rayman 1. You are clearly the best villain of all time. Please sit down, GLaDOS. This phase of the fight, though, is much harder, as you're now using a gun, the revolver from the Vigilante's fight, and before you ask, no, you can't cheese him like you can the Vigilante, just pummel him with bullets until he goes down. So basically, Pizzahead just kind of runs from one end of the arena to the other, and he has a random assortment of attacks that he can unleash on you. So like for instance, he can pull up a stupid rat and throw him like a baseball, and he becomes a baseball pitcher, which is kind of funny. He can throw some dynamite behind him, not really thinking too much about it, so you just need to avoid the dynamite as it lands. He can also pick up what I would assume is Vigilante's Uzi, doesn't know how to use it, so he pulls the trigger while the gun is pointing at his face, by the way, and somehow the bullet spread completely misses his face, but the bullets can actually hit you. He even picks up the TV from the HUD. This dude's just breaking the fourth wall like no one's business. And then he actually reaches down and he can actually pull up the sword from Pizzascape, and by the way, the sword kind of works like Excalibur from like Knights of the Round Table, and because Pizzahead is so unworthy for it, he literally pulls it out of the level, which causes all the Fork Knights in the level to come shooting right up and drop their forks on the way back down, so you of course need to avoid those. Oh, and he can also pull up a picture of himself in a bikini. Well, that probably made a couple of you happy. The faster he goes, and the damaged Pizzaface mech will actually come down and drop some weird little rolling gears that you have to jump over. Yeah, this phase of the fight is pretty intense, especially when he's low on health. You finally hit him with the last bullet, and Pizzahead is finally defeated. Surprise, there's a third phase, and it's mainly just a boss refight. I know boss refights in most games is just something that most people don't really enjoy, but I can assure you that this is actually one of the good ones. Basically, Peppino gets so pissed off. I mean, I did mention earlier that he does have anxiety problems. I mean, it's about fucking time he probably snapped. And he basically just unleashes an absolute flurry of punches, kicks, and slaps on, well, Pepperman here. And, well, you basically fight all four of the main floor bosses, but it's much quicker, and you also get to unleash your anger out on them, so it's even good for Peppino. The only thing that's different about them, though, is when you fight the Vigilante, and because you don't have a pistol anymore, you can't actually damage him. But it just so happens that Gustavo also decides to show up and cheer you on, but you can actually pick him up and use him as a human cannonball, and he ends up flying off the tower only to then just pop back up like 5 seconds later. Honestly, I'm surprised that he's even cool with Peppino doing that. But let's skip to the part that you actually want to see, the Pizzahead rematch. Now, Pizzahead actually has a couple new attacks up his sleeve. Not much, he has a simple boxing glove flurry of punches, he can rush you down with a fly swatter, he can do a little somersault, and he can also do a bit of a sumo stomp. Now, what's interesting about this part of the fight is actually he uses all 4 of these moves in unison with each other. Just gets more and more chaotic the longer the fight goes on. And well, like every fight, it has to end on some insane massive spectacle, so Peppino essentially unleashes what I would assume is his version of the 7-page Mudar, and literally just sends Pizzahead to the sky, only to then hit the height limit and decide to deliver the ultimate pile driver. A pile driver so powerful, it literally shoves Pizzahead's whole head into the tower, and you can even stand on his shoes and break dance just for the added disrespect. Now, before we actually move on to the final portion of the game, let's quickly talk about the music. Now, this one is a 3-stage boss fight, meaning that we have 3 parts of the song: Unexpectancy Part 1, 2, and 3. Starting with Part 1, I think this is probably my least favorite of the 3. It's not a bad track or anything, it's just when it's compared to the other 2 Unexpectancy tracks. Yeah, this one just doesn't really hold up as well as those do, but it's still a good track nonetheless. Now, Unexpectancy Part 2, on the other hand, God, this track fucks. Look, I know I'm sounding like a broken record at this point when it comes to the tracks of this game. I mean, I probably sounded like a broken record the second I talked about Pizzascape, but God, the fact that this track literally samples a 1920s song called After You Get What You Want, You Don't Want It. Pretty in character for a character like Pizzahead, who's more or less based on a Rubber Hose cartoon character. And then of course we have Unexpectancy Part 3, which is probably my favourite of the bunch, but it's kind of a tie between this and Part 2 if I'm being honest. Honestly, don't have a lot to say about it. It's like what I would assume is the perfect finale track, especially for this part of the game, where Peppino is just about to save his restaurant, so it fits the mood incredibly well. Now actually, the main interesting thing about this track in particular is because it actually has a lot of leitmotifs to other level themes throughout the game. And you know what? I'm going to share them all with you right now. There'll be a little icon in the top left so you know what level it's from. There's also a song that's leitmotif that I actually haven't shared yet, and we'll get to it, I promise. He absolutely fits the role of the perfect final boss fight, and I really have nothing else to say about it. It's just incredible. Well, at this point, you probably already jumped down that big gaping hole that just opened up because of Peppino's incredible pile driver. So, let's head down there and finally finish the game. This is it. This is the final level of Pizza Tower, the Crumbling Tower of Pizza. This is the longest level in the entire game, and gives you the most amount of time in order to escape. Now, what I really like about this level is, well, you actually go through all of the main hub worlds that you've been traversing throughout the entire game. Now, there are actually a handful of jump blocks you could find throughout the hub worlds, and made you think for a moment that there was possibly something else going on, or possibly about to happen. Well, if you would have guessed that you would have ran through these in one final level, yeah, you were right. It's one massive level incorporating every single gimmick from pretty much every level. Well, except some of the transformations though, they don't come back. Well, I mean, you have the shotgun transformation, and for some reason, those ghost enemies from Pizzascare apparently die to a shotgun blast, which honestly just makes no sense whatsoever, but whatever. And hell, you even play golf while the tower is about to topple all over you and probably kill you in the process. Look, I don't care how much time you have left, you are going to play golf, you are going to enjoy it, and you are definitely going to get a Primo Berg. Another interesting thing about this level is that Peppino decides to save a lot of the characters here, starting with obviously Gustavo and Brick, because honestly leaving these two behind would be a cardinal sin. We also grab Mr. Stick. Okay, maybe not a cardinal sin if we left you behind, but we also get the boss characters as well. Fake Peppino, Noise, Vigilante, and Pepperman. You even save a couple of extra characters, such as Snotty if you didn't kill him in the 4th floor. You also save the greatest video game character ever created, and of course we cannot forget Jerome the Janitor. Now, I haven't actually talked about this guy yet, so he seems pretty new to most of you. He is important. I will mention him just in a bit here, because I want to actually talk about the music first. The music of this level being called Bye Bye There. Yes, the level name is a reference to the whole fact that pizza time starts with hello there, so obviously makes sense that they finish it with Bye Bye There. Very cool detail, like it. Would have been funny if you called it Pasta La Vista. This track is very triumphant. Obviously it's just some massive leitmotif to it's pizza time, but it makes it seem a lot more triumphant as, well, obviously this is the final level. You're about to finish the game. Of course, the game would cap off with an incredible piece. The song's a bit of a long one as well, being around like 5-ish minutes or so. Perfect because the level is about like 5 minutes as well. But honestly, the best part of the track easily has to go to the saxophone part, because that saxophone is sexy! We finally get back down to the lobby, and we also decide to bulldoze through a couple Pizza Boy cutouts just to remind you of who it is we just absolutely annihilated. Oh, and I feel like you could all guess where this level would fit in the tier list. We exit from whence we came, and Pizza Tower is finished. Now, before we move on, I think it's best I explain the other half of Pizza Tower's story. So yeah, there's a second half to Pizza Tower's story that I didn't really mention, mainly because it isn't really told to you until like the end of the game, and it's really all to do with Pillar John. So yeah, the second half of this story is once again very similar to Wario Land 4. Yeah, I know, the Wario Land 4 inspired video game has a Wario Land 4 inspired plot. Who would have guessed? Now I will mention that most of this is just kind of my own interpretation of how I see things, so just take it with a grain of salt. So from what I could gather, gather, it seems that Pillar John had a curse bear on him, which of course forces him to be a pillar, and not only that is Pizzahead has decided to also clone Pillar John as implied in the war level where we see John in a test tube, where he's cloned, and that would imply that all of the Pillar Johns that you've destroyed so far are all the main clones, and this specific John, which you destroyed at the very beginning of Crumbling Tower of Pizza, is the real Pillar John, as you can clearly tell by the more broken-esque design. So basically, in a way, Pillar John is basically the Princess Shakura of Pizza Tower, who, in case you didn't know, is the princess in Wario Land 4, who you didn't even realize was the black cat until like the end of the game. It's just kind of like a sudden surprise. I mean, they did foreshadow it in the intro cutscene, but like, why do you care about that when you care about the money that's in the damn pyramid, bro? So then going back to John Gutter, we can actually find out that the failed clones of Pillar John were all killed and sent down here, which implies that everything, mainly in the backgrounds, like for instance the city in John Gutter, is actually all made up of dead Johns. Hence why a lot of the dead John pillars are all just in these weird shapes and sizes. Not to mention that if you end up playing the game in windowed mode, you can quickly find out that the window title literally changes its name to a John Graveyard in the Pizza Tower. So basically, by destroying each and every single one of the pillars, you're basically bringing Pillar John closer to freedom, and when you destroyed the last one in Crumbling Tower of Pizza, you've essentially freed him of the curse. And by the way, that one giant John mech in the 5th hub world actually gives you a thumbs up. He clearly wanted this all along. So when the tower finally crumbles, you can find John, obviously dead, albeit free from the curse, but at the cost of his own life, and you can see his brother, Jerome, mourning the loss of his brother. However, this story doesn't have to have an unhappy ending, as we can actually save John by simply grabbing all 19 of the secret treasures. How do you get these? Pretty simple. All you need to do is find Jerome, escort him to the janitor's closet, open the door, and boom, get the treasure and get the hell out of there. Once you get all 19 treasures, go through all of Crumbling Tower of Pizza again. We watched the tower crumble for now the second time at this point, and it's now just dawned on me that Noisa is still in there, which means she's probably dead. That's pretty bad news, actually. Except for him. That's probably the best thing he's heard in his damn life. So instead of watching Jerome mourn the loss of his brother, the secret treasures all come flying out of Peppino, and of course, they revive John. He's all happy, he's alive now, hooray. Pizzahead gets back up, but John gives him a good old meaty shoryuken, and Pizzahead is blasting off again. John and Jerome can finally celebrate being free at last. Peppino doesn't even really know what just happened, but whatever. Let's go grab a slice of pizza. And that is the good ending of Pizza Tower. So we can now watch the credits, and you can even see some of the characters and what happened after the events of the game. Pretty cute, I'll be honest. However, there is one more thing we need to talk about, and that's the final Judgement. Now, if you've played a Metroid game before, you would know that at the end of pretty much every single game in the series, you get judged based on your completion time, and these times will reward you with different endings. These endings involve Samus just simply taking off her armor. I'll use Super Metroid as an example. If you beat the game in the most amount of time possible, Samus will simply just keep her armor on. Beat it a little bit quicker, she'll take off her helmet, but pretty much nothing else. And beat it the fastest time possible, she'll take her whole armor off and will just be regular old Zero Suit Samus. Pizza Tower does something obviously somewhat similar, and it's actually judged based on completion percentage as opposed to time. You would probably guess that Peppino himself probably ends up stripping. Unfortunately, that is not the case, but you have something even better. He tattles you to the police. There's actually quite a handful of these, and honestly, I think a lot of these little ending cards are pretty funny. My personal favorite has got to be the first one that you can unlock, which is "You Suck," which surprisingly is one of the harder ones to get because you actively need to try and not change the completion percentage. But whatever, I always love it when games just basically are not afraid to tell you that you suck at video games, because that's hilarious. I'm assuming that most casual players will probably get these ones, Anything below that is like very rare. I don't think I've seen that many people actually get some of these other ending cards, which means I guess they're actually kind of a challenge to get if that's something you fancy. But then we have the big ones, or at least I want to call them the big three. You have the last one, which is to get a 95% or higher. These next two are actually based on completion time as opposed to completion percentage. We have this one where you need to beat the game in under 2 hours. This one may seem a little easier on the surface, as to get it you need to beat the game in under 4 hours. However, you also need to beat the game with a 95% or higher in under 4 hours. This one I would argue is the hardest to get of them all, and it just so happens that most of the footage you've been seeing throughout this entire video has been of that holy shit run, because I've already played through this game 3 times. That's how much I really love it, so there you go. So now you're probably wondering, how do you get a 95% or higher? Well, I'm glad you asked, because now it's finally time to talk about Pizza Tower's Ultimate Challenge. Hello there. If you are watching this video, then let me be the first to say congratulations. You decided to get up off of your ass.
Fall.
The fuck? Oh no.
And grind for those good old P ranks. And make that $20 that you spent on this game actually worth it. Can I go home now? Haha, no Mr. Spaghetti, you need to figure out what the ranking system even is first. Now, as you can see by these stats, P ranks are by far the hardest rank to achieve within Pizza Tower, and likewise, only about 9% of Pizza Tower's entire player base have even gotten all of the P ranks. And if you want the numbers, Pizza Tower has sold about 1.2 million units, meaning that about 100,000 people have managed to actually conquer this challenge. But don't worry, this video will help your lazy ass, so you don't even have to bother looking up where everything is. So the first thing to mention is the Pizza Tower ranking system. Basically, throughout the level you play through and gather points, and at the end of the level you are graded based on your point total. It's a very simple system. Higher points equals higher rank. So you'd probably put 2 and 2 together and say that P ranks actually are the highest score point total possible. And no, not really, because that's actually just for S ranks. P ranks aren't obtained by normal methods. They're a little bit different. Now, to find out about this, you need to actually locate the pizza granny in floor 5. And basically, these pizza grannies are all throughout each of the hub worlds, and they just tell you some random mumbo jumbo, like either some lore dump or just to kiss her ass, or telling you that Gustavo's a bit of a shifty character. But this one in floor 5 gives you the information that you need to discover the P ranks. And to basically put it simply, P ranks stand for perfect, meaning that the P rank is given to those players who can achieve a perfect run. So that's the challenge. The challenge is perfection, right? But now you're probably wondering, what even constitutes for a perfect run? So P ranks do in fact require a little bit more effort from the player, but don't worry, because there is a very easy way to remember everything that you need to do in order to achieve a perfect run, and that is with Suriname. Okay. You're just making up words at this point. Suriname is an acronym that is made to help those who may be struggling with P ranks. It stands for Secrets, Treasures, First Enemy, S rank, Lap 2, and Combo. I literally don't know what any of this is. Please can I just get the paid and go home now? Now I know that these may sound like a lot of a... Sounds like a lot of a... Sounds like a lot of a... Sounds like a lot of a hassle just to get one of these P ranks, right? Yeah, kinda. So Pizza Tower has a couple of secrets for you to find. Every single level in this game has 3 secrets in total, coming up to a maximum total of 57. The reason it's 57 and not 60 is because Crumbling Tower of Pizza is the only level in the game that actually doesn't have any secret levels, and each secret level can be identified by this image of an eye. Now of course they are secrets, meaning that you need to find these bad boys. And yeah, I know that we live in the current day and age where all you have to do is just look up where they are on your phone, but so just pretend that your phone or any computer does not exist. Are these secrets that hard to find? Not really. All it really takes is a good eye, no pun intended, and you can kind of find these things just by simply looking. Some of them can be telegraphed by just having a little drawing of an eye so you can tell that, hey, there's something right there. Or it's a part of the level design that just looks a little questionable. So honestly, these secrets aren't exactly too difficult to find. However, it's once you finally get inside the secret is when things get interesting. As once you are inside the secret, you have to do a little challenge. Now these challenges usually involve utilizing Peppino's moveset in some way, or most of the time they'll actually utilize one of the abilities found within the level. So it does give a little bit more use for the abilities that you find in the levels. And at the end of these secrets you can find one of these guys. This was just simply a way for McPig to thank those who supported the game via Patreon, and these people are now on full display, because we now all know that these people wasted their college tuition on Pizza Tower. And if you find all the secrets in the game, you get access to a sound test menu, which I guess for any game is just kinda whatever, but for a game like this, getting a sound test menu is like God's given gift. But you don't only get that, you also get access to... Yep, there's a whole brand new secret level in the game. So for a bit of context, 2 days ago, Pizza Tower dropped the Halloween update, which of course added this secret level. Now this secret level does indeed bring up the P rank total to 21, but I'm not going to bother changing it, and not to mention this level isn't even really a new original level. It's actually just a collage of all of the 57 secrets in the game. You just have to beat them all back to back. And hell, it even comes with its own new original track by the name of Secret Lock-In. You're actually listening to it right now. Very good track. Me likey. I thought this was a fun level. A tier. So next up we have are the secret treasures. Now earlier on in this video I mentioned that these are used in order to obtain the good ending of Pizza Tower, you know, the one where you save John from certain death, and of course they are in fact used for the P ranks as well. So like before, just find Jerome and take him to the janitor's door, open it and get the treasure. So this next rule is probably the easiest rule in this entire lineup, but most of you probably don't even know that it's even a thing until it's a bit too late. This rule simply requires you to kill the very first enemy within the room. Now basically what constitutes as the first enemy is very simple. Just kill an enemy, any enemy, doesn't matter which one it is, in the room that corresponds with the door that you entered in. This is why levels such as Fun Farm, Pig City, and actually now Secrets of the World have a single cheese slime in the very first room that you come in. So whenever you're going for those P ranks and you decide to P rank those levels that I just mentioned, make sure you kill that cheese slime, because if you don't, you are locked out of the P rank for the entire run. Doesn't matter if you kill it at any other point, you have to kill it first or else that P rank is gone bye-bye. So the next thing that you need in order to get that P rank is to get an S rank. Now S ranks in Pizza Tower aren't exactly too difficult to obtain. I mean, it's not like Sonic Generations where you basically just need to sneeze and you'll get one. Those S ranks are a total piece of piss. However, I wouldn't say that S ranks in Pizza Tower are that difficult. It's not like Eggman Land from Sonic Unleashed or anything. It's just simply getting the most amount of points in a level. And it just so happens that a lot of the things that you need in order to get a P rank just give you a mass point bonus. So pretty much as long as you have an A before you hit pizza time, that S rank is just a freebie. So lap 2 is the next thing you need to get. It is definitely an easy thing to do, however you do need to unlock it first. Don't worry though, the unlock methods are actually very simple and anyone can do it. The first and probably the easiest, and what I would assume most newer players will end up doing, is just to simply beat a level. Once you beat a level, the lap 2 portal will unlock. There is a much easier method, but it does require just a little bit more skill, and that is to beat the tutorial level in under 2 minutes. I would recommend doing this every time because it not only just unlocks a level, it unlocks all of the levels. I would just recommend doing it first, and also if you've already beaten some levels, you can just go into the tutorial, beat it in under 2 minutes, and you can get the rest of the levels, so you can do it at any point in time. So now that we've actually unlocked the thing, how does it work? The lap 2 portal can be found in any level, then once you interact with the portal, which only becomes interactable during pizza time, you will start lap 2. Now lap 2 basically is just pizza time again, but you just go through the whole level. The whole challenge is that you just have less time to work with than you did earlier. That's what makes lap 2 a little bit more challenging. And speaking of, they even have a new song to accompany it. It's called The Death I Deserve Aioli. And by the way, this is one of the songs that actually got sampled in the unexpectancy theme that I showed earlier. And once the timer hits 0, Pizzaface will show up. So when Pizzaface shows up, he'll basically just follow Peppino around until he touches you, and then it's game over. I have heard it's actually possible to completely beat a level while avoiding Pizzaface, but personally, it's not really recommended that you do that. It's just kind of an extra added challenge that doesn't really give you anything. It's there if you want to make your life just that much more miserable. So the next thing, and the final thing in order to get a P rank, is the combo. Now the combo is a very simple feature put within Pizza Tower. Basically, you just kill enemies and the combo goes up. And also, you get a better judgment after the combo finishes. Now, the way it's integrated within the P ranks is as thus: you have to start a combo at the very beginning of the stage, and you have to keep that combo going all the way until the end. And it doesn't exactly sound that hard on paper, right? Because, well, like I said, you just need to keep killing enemies. Now, while it is definitely easy to keep that combo going, it's arguably just as easy to lose that combo. You can lose that combo by getting hit by any enemy. Getting hit will drain the combo a lot, and you have a couple seconds to react before it's gone completely, so you do have a little bit of time to see if you could save it, but not a lot. You can lose a combo by waiting for too long. You could fall down a pit and get sent pretty far back in the level, and while your combo still stays where it was, you now don't have anything to keep the combo going, so you'll more than likely lose it just because you fell in a pit. Oh, and don't make a sound, you can just lose it by getting jump scared, because that combo just goes away instantly when you get jump scared by anything in that level. Combos are pretty much the single reason that P ranks are even hard to obtain within Pizza Tower. So there we have it. That is all the rules that you will need in order to get a P rank. So I guess it's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Getting the P rank. So now that we've talked about how to deal with P rankable levels, how about the bosses? Yep, the bosses themselves also have P ranks for you to get. However, the reason it's separated from the levels is mainly because they work a lot differently compared to them, and I would argue they're probably the easiest P ranks to get in the game. They are, to put it simply, just don't take a single point of damage. Yep, that's it. Just don't take a single damage in any of these boss fights and you will get a P rank. And you know what? Since I didn't even rank rank the bosses earlier, here they are right now in the tier list as it stands. Pizzahead, obviously, at the very top of the list, followed by Noise and Fake Peppino in A tier, Pepperman in the B tier, and as much as I like the Vigilante, he's unfortunately joining Ancient Cheese in the C tier. Now, speaking of difficult things, I'm going to talk about the levels again. Now, I'm not going to talk about all of the levels, but instead, I'm going to pick one level from each of the 5 floors that I would consider to be the hardest level to P rank. Now, obviously, this is all my opinion, and you're more than likely going to struggle with a level that I might not have mentioned on this list. So, if you ended up struggling with John Gutter of all levels, then, you probably suck at the game. First, we have Bloodsauce Dungeon. Now, Bloodsauce Dungeon, at least compared to the other levels of World 1, this one, at least to me, just kind of felt like a bit of a no-brainer. And it's really mainly because of one thing, and those are the pools of lava that I mentioned when I talked about Bloodsauce earlier. Now, in a casual run, they're basically a minor inconvenience, but when you're going for those P ranks, it's like being put in the electric chair, because touching a single pool of lava or mistiming a jump, it's, yeah, basically a death sentence. The second you touch that thing, you've lost progress, which just gives more time for that combo meter to constantly tick down, and before you know it, you've lost the P rank before you could even destroy the next enemy. Now, luckily though, this is just a very simple, just time your jumps a little bit better and you'll make it through. Not to mention that during pizza time, the pools of lava don't exactly become challenges anymore because, well, they just send you in the direction that you need to go anyway, so they're basically just non-issues anymore. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This level isn't as bad as some of the later ones, trust me. Now, floor 2 compared to the first one was definitely a bit of a step up. Honestly, Wasteyard and Fun Farm were not exactly too hard to P rank. This floor definitely does have a bit of a toss-up, mainly between Oregano Desert and Fast Food Saloon. But in my personal opinion, I think Oregano is the hardest level of floor 2. I think that's for a very good reason. Oregano Desert has a lot of things or obstacles that can just screw over a P rank run a lot more than Fast Food has. Like, obviously, there's a lot more bottomless pits in the level. The hyper-realistic drawn cows can either kick you backwards or kick you in a good direction, but that's very rare. Or like in this secret here, where they can kick you in a pit, and then you have to start all the way at the beginning again, and it's really annoying when that happens. You also have the rain clouds that have timed thunder strikes, and getting hit by them also kind of sucks. And not to mention, there are certain parts of the level where you need to use the fire breath Peppino, or you have to actively avoid using it in order to get a top in. That definitely seems like a lot, but it's kind of a similar story with Bloodsauce. It's really just timing you need to nail down. Honestly, once you nail the timing, the level just kind of becomes a bit of a breeze, which is where some people might find Fast Food Saloon a little bit more harder to them. So in summary, Oregano Desert isn't exactly the hardest level in the game, but it is definitely harder than Bloodsauce, at least in my opinion. And to the surprise of no one, Gnome Forest is considered to be the hardest P rank within Pizza Tower. Now, I know so far most of the P rank's difficulties were just dependent on its gimmicks or just level design in general, and well, this level is kind of the same. However, there is one part of this level that just seems to stick out from the rest of the levels, and it's just super duper annoying. Now, of course, the main hurdle of this level is in fact Gustavo and Brick, and I think most of you know why that's the case. They're a new character, they have a different moveset, control a little bit differently, you just need to get used to them. It's gonna take a little bit of learning, but you'll end up getting it in the end. But that does not exactly prepare you for this room right here. This room in the entire level is just a sudden difficulty spike that just kind of comes out of nowhere. You just sort of have to accept that it's there. Now, the reason that this room is a massive difficulty spike is because there's nothing in this room to maintain your combo, because it is just a straight run from this point all the way to this little topping here. And if you slow down even for like a microsecond, that P rank of yours, hell, even if you play really well, simply bonking on this wall here is enough for that P rank to go away. And it sucks even more that this is the room that's just right next to John Pillar, which leads into the pizza time section, which is like the easiest part of Gnome Forest. So yeah, losing a P rank here, which will happen all the damn time, it kinda sucks. But wait, hold on a second. Now, do you remember when I talked about this? This is the update I talked about about a little earlier ago when I talked about Secrets of the World. Well, the new level wasn't the only thing that they added, because if you scroll down a little bit, the dev team ended up going to change a couple of the levels. 5 levels were changed in this patch, and well, it just so happened that the one we're talking about is at the tippy top of this list. Basically what they did was they changed this room, the room I just talked about, and added some of these little rat fairies that just maintain your combo meter, meaning that now this room is no longer the difficulty spike it once was, meaning that actually this level's P rank isn't annoying anymore. So now that probably begs the question, is this level still considered to be the hardest of the game, or at least World 3? Well, for that first question, probably not. I think there's definitely some contenders now, but hardest in World 3, yeah, I think it is still the hardest. Like I said, the main gimmick of this level is still Gustavo and Brick, and I think learning a whole new control scheme is a lot harder than a golf ball that is just so happened to be named Greaseball. So for floor 4, I actually ended up choosing Peppibot Factory, and for pretty much the exact same reason I ended up choosing Gnome Forest is mainly because there's a sudden difficulty spike that just kinda comes out of nowhere and hits you like a... Now honestly, for pretty much all of Peppibot, this level is honestly one of the easier ones, but apparently this single difficulty spike is so severe that it ended up bumping this level all the way to the top, and it is this little conveyor belt right here. Now this conveyor belt spits out these speed pads, and these speed pads send you back. So what you're required to do is jump in between these. But the problem is that these speed pads are placed so close together that you need to basically be pixel perfect when it comes to your dives and your jumping. If you dive too early, you're sent back. If you dive too late, you're sent back. You need to find the sweet spot. Now, like Gnome Forest, the better I got at the game, the easier this section of the level became for me. So when I inevitably got better at Pizza Tower, this little platforming challenge just became a bit of a breeze for me because I can consistently hit the sweet spot a lot more often. But when I initially P-ranked it all the way back in February of this year, it annoyed me to my very core. It annoyed me so much, in fact, that I ended up making an entire cooking tutorial for a pizza. Welcome back to another incredible episode of Cooking with Spy.
Gentlemen, today we are cooking. Let's get the ingredients. Pour me in the oven.
2 hours later.
Congratulations, you have made the pizza with the
And just like Gnome Forest, Peppibot Factory also got a little nerf, and the speed pads are now placed a lot more open out, meaning that it's a lot easier to dive and jump, and there's a lot more room for error as well, so that's just handy, meaning that now Peppibot Factory actually isn't the hardest anymore. So, well, what would be considered the hardest? Well, I guess you could argue that Oh Shit is one of those levels, because it too had a little bit of a difficulty spike, but like Peppibot Factory, it too also got nerfed in the update, meaning that now it isn't exactly that difficult anymore, which now just leaves us with either Pig City and, yeah, the hardest level is now Freezerator, and I think we all know why. And last but not least, the hardest level of floor 5, in my personal opinion, is Pizzascare. I know some of you might end up picking War over Pizzascare, and fair enough, I mean it is intended to be the hardest level in the game, but in my personal opinion, I found this one to be harder to P rank, and it's mainly because of the Cheese Ghost guy and nothing else. Oh wait, no, never mind, the Fork Knight Ghost variant. That one's a bit annoying because they're... and the only way you can kill them is by getting the Exorcist to shield you for a bit. I already talked about the Cheese Ghost guy, but just for a quick refresher, basically he follows you around and he haunts things and he can damage you as well, so just be a little careful when he's nearby. He does stick with you throughout the entire level, even during pizza time, and there are some sections where you can lose a P rank if you're not paying too much attention, so just be on your A game when you're beating this level. Oh yeah, by the way, this is the level where I first found the secret Easter egg Pizza Tower guy. You know, this guy. Basically, in every level, he can appear after you reach a certain point in the level in under, I think it's a minute. And he'll basically just stand there unless you approach him or the time limit runs out, and then you'll just teleport away. And this character is just a cool reminder on why you should never be an indie game developer, because you end up looking like this guy. There you go, those are my picks for the 5 hardest levels in Pizza Tower. Congratulations, you've finally done it. You've gotten all of the P ranks within Pizza Tower. So now, head on back to the menu screen, take a look at that beautiful save file, and it actually goes up to 101%. Oh boy, here we go. So there is one more thing if you want to fully complete Pizza Tower, and well, it's incredibly simple. All you need to do is get all the Steam achievements. Now, I know this sounds really bad, and trust me, it is. I mean, there's only like 3 people in the entire world that even care about getting Steam achievements, and surprise, surprise, I ain't one of them. Now, I have done this in the past with a little game called The Binding of Isaac, in which you needed about 600 plus achievements in order to complete the game, which is getting Dead God. Now, luckily for Pizza Tower has less achievements. It has about 74 as of right now. And honestly, these achievements are really, really easy to get. Most of the achievements are just beat the level while doing this specific thing, or just do the specific thing in the level, or beat the level in under a condition. And that's it. That is really all there is to these achievements. These achievements can be found in the little chef task room in every floor of the tower. These will just basically show you the achievements that you have and have not gotten yet. And there's 3 achievements for every single level, and they're honestly incredibly easy to get. There's not really many I can really point out and say, this one's a really hard one, just do this and you'll be fine. Yeah, because honestly, these achievements are pretty easy. There are these 3 other achievements for every floor, and they're actually to very simply get every S rank in the levels, get every P rank in the levels, and clear a boss without taking a single point of damage, which also means P rank the bosses. The S ranks and P ranks are really easy. We literally just talked about those. The bosses, yes, are P rankable, but it's just not taking damage, which is why they never appeared in the list, or I never talked about them when I talked about P ranks, because of course they work differently, and honestly they're way easier compared to the levels. Just use the Y button or the C key if you're using a keyboard for this game. Now, I want to talk about these 2 achievements right here, as these were actually achievements that were added in the Halloween update. You know, the update that I've been kind of mentioning for the past 30 minutes now. Yes, because the main content of this update was the Halloween makeover for the Pizza Tower, and these 2 achievements were a part of that. These 2 achievements go by the names of Pumpkin Munchkin and Trixie. Now it's finally time to talk about the actual content of the Halloween update, starting with the cosmetic changes. All that's really happened here is a lot of the NPCs have just put on cute little Halloween costumes, starting with Gustavo and Brick, who are clearly dressed up as Dr. Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. Pepperman is dressed up as a mad scientist. Points for originality. The Vigilante is dressed up as a cow who looks clearly excited for the Halloween season. The Noise is dressed up as what people would assume to be the Noid, but you typically dress up as something scary, so obviously he's actually dressed up as his girlfriend. I mean, me personally, I think a copyright lawsuit from Domino's is infinitely more scarier, but to each their own, I guess. Fake Peppino is dressed up as a ghost, so he just put a dirty sheet over himself. And Pizzahead has decided to dress up as the alternate universe version of himself, where Pizzaface is Pizzahead, and of course you can't have a Halloween makeover without really corny cardboard cutout jump scares. And apparently this one on floor 1 is floating 1 pixel off the ground. Must have been made by Jesus. Now onto the actual content of the Pizza Tower Halloween update. This update brings in a brand new mode, but you have to unlock it first, and it's actually pretty easy. So in all the levels there is a pumpkin that you need to find. Luckily the pumpkin can be found very, very easily. It's usually just placed on the main path, and when you get close to it, it plays a little spooky tune to let you know that you're right next to it or something. So all you need to do is spend a little time, look for it, and it'll just fade in when you get pretty close to it. Then all you need to do is just touch it and you've got it. Just exit the level and move on to the next one. These pumpkins are pretty easy to find, so don't really bother looking in any secrets or, secret areas or anything. They just put on the main path. And hey, it at least gives you a reason to revisit the Crumbling Tower of Pizza, so that's always nice. So after collecting all 20 pumpkins, this door in floor 1 will open, giving you access to the brand new mode, Tricky Treat. Now this mode is not really that hard or anything, but it does obviously lead into the 2 achievements I talked about earlier. So you enter the little mini stage and, well, you're greeted with this guy. This is Ghost Pumpkin Pizzaface, and he's basically just a harder version of the John Ghost enemy from Wasteyard, But when he catches you, instead of teleporting to the beginning of a room, instead you are teleported to the lobby area where you now have to restart the whole thing. So yeah, getting caught by him, especially near the end of this little mini level, kinda sucks. Now, what are you doing in this level, you may ask? Well, you're actually collecting the last 10 remaining pumpkins. There's actually 30 pumpkins in the game, and every 5 pumpkins you get a new piece of clothing. It's, well, not really special or anything, but it's just kinda cute to get some extra cosmetic items in Pizza Tower, so it's a win for me. And honestly, getting the 10 last pumpkins is actually pretty easy because the green ones point you in the direction that you want to go in, so just progression, and the blue ones are optional pumpkins, obviously you need in order to get the achievements. So prioritize going for the blue arrows and then go for the greens. And yeah, the last 2 achievements that I mentioned, the first one, you just need to get all 30 of the pumpkins, and then the other one, which is a little bit more difficult, you just have to get all 10 pumpkins in a single run. You can retry this as many times as you want to, so just keep doing it until you get it. And, of course, we have some songs to accompany this. Like how Classy Jiddo came back to obviously make the music for Secrets of the World, Mr. Sauceman and Post Elvis both return as well to compose some tracks. The Bone Rattler, which was composed by Mr. Sauceman, is the lobby theme that you hear for Tricky Treat. It's a cute little Halloween theme. And then you have The Runner, the song that plays during the Tricky Treat mode. This one was composed by Post Elvis, and, well, I think this is his second song that he's composed for Pizza Tower, and honestly, it sounds like it's very Banjo-Kazooie. Like, I feel like I would hear this song in a Banjo-Kazooie game. Oh, and speaking of, there's actually a cool little Easter egg that you can do. So if you actually get the Ghost power-up and juke Ghost Pumpkin Pizzaface, actually head backwards up from where you came from, and you actually want to exit the level as the Ghost power-up, and when you do, you're greeted with and then the game crashes. So, a little bit of trivia. This actually used to be cut content for the final judgments that you get at the end of the game. And originally, it was supposed to be permanent, so you weren't able to change it after you got what you got initially. But they changed it, obviously, probably because it would have been really annoying, and I'm glad they did. And, well, almost all of it made it back in. All you got was the weird Peppino face, and I guess it's a little creepy. Can't wait for someone to make a creepypasta out of this. Oh, and speaking of creepypasta, looks like even Pizza Tower guy's getting in on the fun, because he's basically made a creepypasta version of himself. That's how you know you made it big. Oh hey, welcome back. So, So, I feel like I don't need to say anything else about this game anymore. Well, except for one thing. So if you just so happen to have an account on this absolute hell site, you may or may not follow the official Pizza Tower Twitter account. And on the official Pizza Tower Twitter account, it was announced roughly around Christmas time that the noise was going to be added in a later update to Pizza Tower. Why am I mentioning this now exactly? Especially when I could just easily add it in the video? Well, it's because the update isn't even out yet, and it's only just been teased through the Twitter account so far. No confirmation has been found, and besides, I've worked on this video for like 6 months and I kind of need to get this video out because I have not uploaded literally anything to the channel since last June, so probably need to get on top of that. Don't worry though, I will talk about the noise update just in a future video. So there you go, you can save the comments, you don't have to type anything out. So if this video has somehow piqued your interest in Pizza Tower, which honestly I feel like my videos would probably ruin the interest of the game, feel free to go get it on Steam. It's like 20 bucks. It's definitely worth it. Oh, and if you somehow do not have a PC and you're hoping that they end up porting the game over to Nintendo Switch, well, do I have some news for you. I really like playing Pizza Tower on my Nintendo Switch. Well then, so as one last thing before we finally end things off here, I wanted to quickly mention that I have also put the people who have worked on Pizza Tower's Twitter accounts in the description. So from the music composers, the actual Pizza Tower Twitter account, and of course we cannot forget the legend himself, Certif, rocking a Jesse Pinkman profile picture, based because you've watched Breaking Bad, which implies that McPig at some point probably told Certif that we needed to cook a platformer based on Wario Land 4. And, well, I guess while you're at it, you can also follow my account on Twitter, but you're better off following off the people who worked on this beautiful masterpiece of a game, as opposed to some loser who's talking about the game. So, as I always do, if you like this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel and also like the video as well, and please give it 1 million views. Just cause why not? And always remember that Mort the Chicken is the greatest video game character ever conceived by mankind. Alright, goodbye.